is @blue_pal skibidi Ohio Halloween.
GI, your government has abandoned you. They have ordered you to die, GI. Do not trust them. You know you cannot win this war. Defect, GI. It is a very good idea to leave a sinking ship. Your rich leaders grow richer while you die in the storm, GI. Your government lies to you every day, poor soldier. Imperialists make you fight this war, GI. You cannot dig foxhole to hide, GI Joe. You are not safe here. You have lost this war, GI. Your army will leave you behind. GI, your government...
Hi everybody. I wish that was longer, but I can't find a longer one on YouTube, but I can just find the original thing. That's Hanoi Hannah. For those of you who don't know, Hanoi Hannah was a broadcaster, radio personality, if you will, during the Vietnam War, I believe it was, who would frequently talk shit on America. And they were right. But the music one is so good. Yeah, South Vietnam, 1968.
GI, your government has abandoned you. They have ordered you to die, GI. Do not trust them. Defect, GI. It is a very good idea.
Oh, I found it.
A sinking ship. They lied to
no,
you, GI.
I didn't.
You know you cannot win this war. Your rich leaders grow...
This is definitely not the good version. Oh, jeez. Anyway, that's Hanoi Hannah, based Queen. All these years later, I'm sure my grandfather would absolutely love to hear me say that. Both my grandfathers were in Vietnam. One was in the Navy, the other was in the Army. My grandfather that was Army saw a lot of shit. And my grandfather that was in the Navy did not see as much. He talked about swimming a lot. He said he used to swim a lot off the boat, and there would be sharks and stuff, and he'd talk about that stuff. He wouldn't talk about anything else. But my other grandfather was in the thick of it. And while I don't blame him because his predicaments led him to that situation, I also don't blame the reverse propaganda, the Uno reverse. But we have a bunch of stuff to talk about today. My mom's second husband served twice in the Marines and the other in the Navy or the Army. That's sick. That's really cool. I have nothing but respect for vets, okay? Up until they, like, unless you, like, you do something really bad, like you're a pedophile or you storm the Capitol, like on January 6th, or you're, like, a sex trafficker, or you beat your wife, those things like that, I have so much respect for vets. My mom asked him, was America really that bad? And he said he was bored and they were paying him bank. That's fair. Wait, is it fair? I don't know. My grandfather went into the military because my grandfather on my mom's side went into the military because he had to drop out of high school in order to get a job. Then he came back. He had to drop out of high school in order to get a job at like sophomore or junior year of high school, and then he signed up for the military, and then he went to Vietnam. He wasn't even drafted. He was just ready to go. Started a biker chapter, opened gyms, and became a wrestler. Oh, damn. Oh, I forgot my costume today. I also forgot to post on TikTok. Jeez. I was so busy looking for that Hanoi Hannah bit that I totally forgot to do the rest of my job. Hold up. I filmed it earlier. I saved it as a draft, so that'll save some time. Wait, where do I find drafts? Where do I find drafts? back. God, I am so boomer fucking coded. Oh, there it is. Okay. Giraffes are usually found in Africa and...
Christ, there's a boomer around here.
I deserve that. I did deserve that excellent timing, Blue. Blue with the assist. It's a really cool hoodie. Thanks. It's not a hoodie. It's more like a shawl. It's the whole... Hold on, I'll show you. Hold up. Oh! No, I don't want to add TikTok to my home screen. It's only gonna make life harder. A little tail. It's too hot to wear the rest of it, so I only settled for this. And I'm really glad. I like my legs being exposed. How are all of you guys? How's your day going? What did you do today? Since I've been gone, I can't sleep for the whole... We took down a tree. We've been slowly stripping it down. I am really exhausted, girly pop. I feel that. I've been up at like 6:30 almost every day for like the last like few weeks. It's rough. It's rough out here on them streets. Can't get any sleep. Can't afford food. Oh, my ankles. So yeah, we took down a few trees. I weeded my garden today. I did a bunch of dishes. There was a house centipede in the... Okay, so we use dish bins in our house. So we have a few dish bins and like a section. That way things don't get left to sit in the sink. So we rinse our dishes and we put them in the dish bin. And then whoever's dish night it is, they do the dishes at the end of the day. Or however they want to do it. And so that's how we get through the dishes in the house. Because there's 7 of us. So... I was doing the dishes today and I picked up the first dish bin and I started going through it. I got about like 3/4 of the way done and I go to reach in and I look and there's a fucking house centipede. I wanted to die. I was like,
Oh no.
it was awful. Like I didn't know what to do. So I just picked up the dish bin and put it back and started on another dish bin. Oh, I also made dinner. It was pizza. We had homemade pizza for dinner tonight. What I gotta do is make like a big batch of like pizza dough and portion it out and then freeze it so we can use it again later. That might be a really good idea. I'm gonna consider it. Oh, Blue, you got 69 gold? Hell yeah. 2,786. What's Dorothy at? Dorothy, you're in 2nd place with 4,317. And everybody wants to know what Hobby's at. Enter. Hobbies in first with 6,157 with 100 casts. Blue, you're in fourth. With 2,797 as of whenever your last cast was. I gotta pump those numbers up. Pump it up. Isn't that how that song goes? Oh, and watch. But, what else was I gonna say? No, it's gone. But I have a lot of firewood now. Well, we haven't chopped all the tree up yet. We're still working on that. But we have a bunch of firewood now for like another bonfire. I'm gonna put Lo-Fi Girl on in the background. I really just want to sit and yap for a little bit. The news is great and all, but sometimes I just need 5 minutes of peace. No. History. Okay, I also got, oh, Hobby! Welcome in, you're in first still. You kind of branch. Oh, also I added a voice changer thing. I might, hold on, if I can do it. Voice mod. Yeah, I'm setting up my Steam Deck so I can turn on and off the voice changer. I have to figure out also a way to like make it worth it. Hi, I only have seconds before I need to go deal with the kids. I wish I had Auto Fisher. I wouldn't hold this lead for long if I can't. I won't hold this lead for long if I can't be in stream. Aw. Hobby, I'm so sorry. I'm just glad you're partially here, though. Okay.
Okay, so this should work, but I don't know 100% if it did. So if you guys can hear it, let me know. There should be a voice change on there.
Did it work? I can only hear through my headphones. And they don't go in my ears, they sit on the edge of my ears. Did it work or no? That's not an answer. That only leaves me with more questions. It worked? Okay, cool. Yay, I finally set something up right. Yay. It's just unsettling. Why? Is it really high pitched, or is it like jarring, or is it too close to my actual voice? Oh geez, it started thundering. Oh boy. All right, if the stream goes down, the power went out. Uncanny Valley of high-pitched voice? Yeah, I guess. Well, I can also do, maybe I'll do this one. Hold on. Okay, this one is called Music Chord, but sometimes it makes me think of Finn from Adventure Time. I'm gonna start using my voice changer when I'm in Discord with y'all. That would be funny. Oh, hi T-Pain. Yeah. But yeah, okay, so yeah, I got the voice changer on. You can do it. I set it up so you can do it. I have sound effects on my mixer I use for D&D. I love doing music for D&D. I also play music through it. That sounds fun. I want to learn how to use all of the computer technology. Wow.
Christ, there's a boomer around here.
I just sounded so old. And I can play them music while I don't hear it. Oh, okay. Yeah, I don't hear my voice feedback. But that's really cool. I'll have to check it out sometime. Oh, well, I guess you don't record your D&D sessions, do you? I was thinking like you did them live. I like to do music. It reminds me of Finn on Adventure Time when he did his robot voice. Yeah, that's what it reminds me of too. I love it. That was a good episode. Finn from Adventure Time is one of like my all-time favorite characters. I might have some recorded on my PC at home. Nice. Yeah, I love when I did the Rick and Morty D&D playthrough. There was like a scene where we came up on like a bunch of pirates. Well, it was animatronic pirates. It was like it was like not. I keep thinking National Treasure. That's not the word. It was like the Pirates of the Caribbean ride from Disney, except they were like talking puppets. And what I did to introduce them, because the characters were coming down on a boat, I slowly started playing the yo ho, and increasing in volume the closer they got. Probably one of the best things I ever did playing Dungeons and Dragons. Oh, it's raining. I gotta go close my door. BRB. Now I'm too blue. Oh, man. I can't wait for Halloween. Like, I'm so excited. Oh my god, I have so much to talk about when it comes to the Hunger Games book, so I don't want to ruin it for anyone. So I've been posting it in books. Because I just basically copy and paste all of my text messages to Hobby where I'm like, hey, do you think this is correct based off of my assumptions when I read this chapter? And he's like, okay. Because I think he's only seen the movies. So I'm just like spitballing these wild conspiracy theories out of him based off of... I'm turning into an English teacher. I am straight up turning into an English teacher. Ooh, a swordfish. What'd you get? Oh, wait, the epic swordfish? Okay, sorry. I got distracted. I was like, what should I watch on YouTube? I know we should do the news, and I'm thirsty. All right. I can't just sit and be normal. I have to be doing something at all times.
This morning, new data showing inflation is holding steady, but a broader look shows prices did rise on a wide array of products, showing that President Trump's tariffs are being passed along to consumers. So the question is, how do Americans feel about Trump's handling of inflation? CNN's Harry Hinton is...
Wait, I want to read the comments to actually see how Americans feel. That's where the Little Mermaid is. And he is even more clueless about life on land than she was. At least she had the capacity to learn. Chaos, cruelty, criminality, and corruption will be the hallmarks of the Trump regime. Trump's approval rating is in the toilet. Release the Epstein files now. He will probably open his own private... Hold on, can you guys see? Okay, good. Oop. He will probably open his own private news station that will say the numbers he wants, like plus... No, he'll just tell other news stations to do it. That's part of the settlement agreements that he's made with the new, like the corporations that have been suing, the media corporations that have been suing him, or he's sued them into complicity, and they've settled on it where they'll do X amount of hours of things that he wants them to do. So that's just what he's doing. Plus 125%. Trump is a genius. Trump is great. Trump is the best president ever, etc. Yeah, we all know that song and dance. We've seen V for Vendetta in the Hunger Games. You got what you voted for. Covering up files and tariffs hurting jobs will do that. Love Harry Enten. He understands how the facts impact regular Americans and is animated. This is AI. This is not real. Tariffs on Brazil will affect food. It's a disaster. I feel like Harry Enten is the only financial guy on TV who's paying attention to the average American's cost of living. I didn't travel this year, and I raised prices in my business, and I'm saving money. I see shitstorm coming. Enten for the win. Okay, that's also a bot. Who the fuck says all that? He likes being underwater. That's his life story. I can't think of any issue where Americans don't disapprove of what Trump is doing. The tariffs will create a stagflation scenario. Heritage Foundation will have difficulty trying to cover that up. 37 trillion in national debt. Trump said he would lower prices despite saying he would do things that would raise prices. E.g., example, start a trade war, and people still believed and voted for him. Okay, there is something I want to preface there. Not everybody remembers like their U.S. History 1 class and what the start of the American Revolution was, and no one paid attention during the Great Depression other than the fact that people lost money and were poor. That's their takeaways. Not the different effects that could have caused it. Trump said he would lower prices despite... Oh, wait, I already read that one. Wait for August data to come, especially after 50% tariff for Brazil. Trump under the sea. He's slurring his words terribly. Here's hoping he kicks over sooner for the good of the world. This is what America gets when it elects a man who's actually bankrupted a casino in addition to many other business and failures. Yeah, tell me about it. Tell me about it.
Joining us now, Harry, this is really a huge piece of why the president was elected, was to get a handle on cost of living. So how do Americans feel like he's doing?
Let me just say, this is an abject disaster. Abject disaster for the President of the United States. You mentioned it, Jessica. Look, voters on Trump and inflation. He won the 2024 election because he was more entrusted on inflation than Kamala Harris was, led by a margin of 9 points. Look at where his net approval stands today, though, on inflation. My goodness gracious. Into the gutter we go, underwater we go. He's 25 points underwater. My goodness gracious. That is where the Little Mermaid is, and he is matching the Little Mermaid. That's how far underwater he is on the issue that got him elected. He led on by 9 points on it last year, and now he's 25 points underwater. As I said, this is a complete and total disaster for the President of the United States.
So let's look ahead to 2026 when a lot of all the House Republicans, some senators going to be on the ballot. How is that shaping?
Yeah, if Republicans in Congress think that they can escape the wrath of the voters when it comes to inflation, I have a bit of a rude awakening for them. Trust which party more on inflation? You go back to the 2022 midterms, look at this. Republicans led by 13 points on which party was more trusted in inflation. Look at where we are now, nearly a 15-point shift in the Democrats' direction. It's within the margin of error, but the Democrats up by a point. This just looks totally different from where we were back in 2022 when, of course, Republicans took back the House. That's what Democrats are trying to do this time around, looking much better for them. The bottom line is the wrath that the voters feel for Donald Trump and inflation is transferring over to House Republicans and now Democrats, although it's a small lead, a big difference from where we were back in October of 2022, with Democrats actually in the positive and Republicans in the negative. Very much the reverse of where we were just 3 years ago.
Yeah, and so how do voters feel about inflation in terms of where it ranked and what kind of priority it is for them?
Right. So we started off this segment by saying
I
that
broke
inflation
it.
was the reason.
Oh, also, again,
that Donald Trump was elected. It was the most.
if I disappear, it's because the power went out. I'll post to the Discord or refresh if it comes back on.
Most important issue for the voters back last year at this point, and look at where we are today. What is the top issue for you right now? It's a runaway. It's inflation. It's 34% compared to the economy, which is basically very similar at 16%, Medicare and Social Security at 14%. But the bottom line is voters in poll after poll after poll say that Donald Trump has taken his eye off the ball, off the big issue of the day, which is inflation, and that is why Donald Trump is way underwater on this issue, and it's why Democrats have caught up to Republicans on the all-important issue of inflation. I can guarantee you this, Jessica, if these numbers look right now like they do, or will look on Election Day 2026, there is no way on God's green earth that Republicans can hold on to the House of Representatives. These numbers, as I said, an abject disaster for Donald Trump and therefore Republicans.
I mean, I'm no Harry Enton, but 34 is
That's
more
a big
than,
number.
more than double 16.
That is a very, very large number.
All right. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Oh, no, don't go right into Epstein. We all know. So tariffs. So I posted a TikTok the other day, and I'm not gonna just play it for you guys. I'm just gonna go into the information about it. So back in high school and 8th grade, 7th, 8th grade, I think usually 8th grade, depending on your education, your the location of your education, and the funding your school got, and the type of teacher you had, you would learn about a couple of things in U.S. History 1. U.S. History 1 takes place right around the formation of America, when the Puritans start settling into America. Usually right around the time they say Columbus discovered America. And we learn about that. We learn about the Native Americans, First Nation. I'm not sure what the updated terminology is anymore. That's not a dig. I just don't keep up with stuff as much as I should. So we start there, and then it goes to about 1900, somewhere around the Industrial Revolution. So in those U.S. History 1, we learn about the American Revolution. And you guys know, because I talk about this all the time, is that the American Revolution was fought over various things: housing of soldiers, taking away people's guns, no freedom of expression, meaning vocally against the government or anything like that, and tariffs. There's probably a few more in there, but those are like the top 4, all right? Because revolutions don't just happen in a bubble. It's not just we pick up our things and we go to war. Like no, it takes time and energy, and it's a slow building process that happens over many, many, many years. This country has been headed back downhill ever since FDR died. It's only gotten, I would say it's gotten really downhill because of Reagan, but it just kept going. Well, Americans can't be controlled. Apparently we can be. But so those four things are things Americans hated. The French Indian War happened because colonists couldn't stop encroaching on their territory. Yeah, which led to England actually collecting taxes. Yeah, they had to repay all their debts for losing the war. Yeah, so they started putting tariffs on. And then, but there were also those other things going on. And then there was the tea tax. But the tea tax, according to what Tim and I looked up and talked about, is that the tea tax was on imported tea because there was a lot of bootlegging in the tea. They always had the taxes, but they ignored it. Well, partially true due to bribes and such. I'm just going over this basic US History 1. Simple for people who only got a high school education, don't want to go into the whole background and deeper lore. These are four things that any soon-to-be converted Republican or MAGA will recognize. Yeah, we don't need a lore dump on the normies, okay? Those are the four main pillars. Freedom of expression, right to bear arms, freedom of the press, and no taxation without representation. That the normies eat that shit up, okay? I got a letter today in the mail that was from Arkansas. It had a stamp of Barbara Bush on it, and then over top of the postage stamp of Barbara Bush, it said USA 1776 to 2025, and I was like, what am I reading? What is this? From Arkansas? Why do we love Barbara Bush so much? I thought Clinton was from Arkansas. I am baffled. Also, why does America end in 2025? So anyway, that's like the basic facts that most Americans need to know about. And like right now, we are seeing military take to the streets and mobilize for a fascist dictator. I'm not even going to say fascist dictator. Somebody who is acting like a king, who is very obsessed with gold and everything looking beautiful and everything looking nice and everything looking exactly the way he likes everything, and anything outside of what he likes is wrong and should be punished. That sounds like a lot like King George. So in that relation, I'm losing my train of thought. Oh, right. So he's sending the military into places. And what's going to end up happening is we're going to have some kind of Boston Massacre type situation. And then it's going to lead to a fucking war, because these things don't happen in a bubble. Everybody is struggling with food. Everybody is, and that was something else that was happening during the Revolutionary War. People were struggling to pay for things. People were frustrated at the government processes. People were irritated. People didn't want to be told what to do anymore. Especially from a guy across the sea. And like, what's any different than somebody who lives in an ivory tower? A gold tower. Ugh. Oh. So I was telling Hobby the other day about how people are suspecting that Caroline Leavitt is sleeping with Trump, especially because she went on that Scotland trip. And he was like, oh, I wonder if her small tits and thin lips make him think of a child. I was like, girl, who made you that mean? That was really loud. But anyway.
Groceries will be cheaper. I will.
Well, you know, because he's a PD. He's a possibly. Hobby is vicious. Hobby. I love him so much, and I am in awe every time he comes up with a comeback. I could have responded to somebody in the best way I thought possible, and I'll read him the person's comment and he'll be like, I would have said this, and I'm like, damn, you're funnier than me. I hate this. And he's savage too. Like, he is not afraid to like cut the quick, man. I left my phone open on my TikTok. He's never mean to me, just everyone else.
We'll fix it. It'll be fixed very fast. And America will be bigger, better, bolder, richer, safer, and stronger than ever before. And we will make America, very importantly, affordable again, because people cannot afford.
Is that... Sorry, hold on. I just realized I messed up my chat. I just wanted to make the background translucent, not the... Springtime for Hitler and Germany. Watch out, fellas. Well, that, I don't know if you guys heard that, but that was loud. Okay, how do I do this? My neck hurt from jumping like that. Alright, whatever.
The prices. The prices are too high.
My plan will rapidly defeat inflation, quickly bring down prices, and reignite explosive economic growth.
We're going to bring prices way down, and we'll get it done fast.
Oops. Never mind. Hi again, everybody. It's now 5 o'clock in
Why does the music sound so glitchy?
New York. Donald Trump made a litany of promises like those to the American people, to his own supporters, to swing voters, frankly, to all of us, that he would be the one who would make things cheaper and make all of our lives easier. He would lower prices. He would drive down inflation. He would drive down the national.
Did you guys hear that? Hold on. I turned up all of my volumes so you guys could hear the thunder. I got played like a fool.
Debt. He would make things more affordable. But the reality is that prices are high and people are struggling more than ever to get by. A lot of that having to do with the crisis he created, tariffs. They're creating major chaos and confusion and adding to higher costs and economic anxiety. Those costs are now expected to go even higher. Take the latest inflation report and analysis from financial experts that came out yesterday. The Consumer Price Index rose 2.7% on an annual basis in July, which was actually unchanged from the month before and less than expected. That's the good news. But about the report, CNBC finds this, quote, there were worrying signs under the surface, including evidence that Trump administration policies are stoking inflation for certain goods and services, economists said. Those effects will likely become more pronounced later this year, they said.
The table is shaking. That's how, like, heavy the thunder is right now. I saw the lights flicker.
Mark Zandi, chief economist of Moody's, says this, quote, "The tariff and immigration effects aren't screaming at us, but they're certainly speaking very loudly. And over the next couple months, they'll start yelling." Not a good sign for the already more than 80% of Americans who are stressed about the price of groceries right now in either a major or minor way. A brand new poll by the Democratic group Emily's List goes deeper into those economic anxieties and finds this, quote, "It paints a bleak picture of where Americans are right now." That's according to the group's president, Jessica Mackler. The survey finds this, quote, "More than 3/5 of voters believe the economy is not doing well," according to the survey, compared to just 37% who think it is doing well. Voters blame Republicans for the economy, with 70% saying the GOP.
Oh, God. 70% of voters are, I'm sorry, hold on, I gotta move the subtitles. No, I clicked on the wrong thing. I thought I was in the video. More than 3/5 of voters believe the economy isn't doing well, according to the survey, compared to just 37 who think it is doing well. Voters blame Republicans for the economy, with 70% saying the GOP is more responsible than the Democrats. That is not a good sign at all for Republicans during the election. Gavin Newsom should just pull the trigger on that gerrymandering stuff, you know, the metaphorical trigger on the gerrymandering stuff, because why not? Why the fuck not? Adjust it for your population. I believe Gavin Newsom is, yeah, no, he is officially. So I don't know if you saw in the Discord, but here, I'll show you. I'll pull it up. I was scrolling on Twitter earlier today, something I don't usually do because I like to try to stay off social media on my downtime, but it never works. I've been listening to books more. But it's probably better if I go to TikTok. Fuck. Oops.
Four years ago, Andrew Cuomo.
Oh God, I haven't seen this one yet on here. Oh, hell yeah. Where's the volume?
Resigned in disgrace, and you probably know why.
The governor's office kept the nursing home death data secret.
Cuomo aggressively groped an aide.
Inappropriately touched a female state trooper.
Use of state resources for a COVID-19 memoir.
Less well known is what he spent the last 4 years doing, besides getting trounced in the Democratic primary. In 2022, Cuomo started Innovation Strategies LLC to represent individuals and corporations in a variety of matters. Definitely not vague. Last year, it raked in more than $500,000. Who paid for Cuomo's services? He refuses to say. But what journalists have been able to piece together is troubling. In April, Bloomberg revealed that Cuomo advised a cryptocurrency exchange based in the Seychelles as it faced federal investigations. Then in May, Politico reported that Cuomo failed to disclose $2.6 million in stock options to the New York City Conflicts of Interest Board. His excuse? The stocks were technically owned by Innovation Strategies LLC, of which he's the sole proprietor. Finally, in June, the New York Times uncovered that Cuomo had worked with his longtime friend Andrew Farkas on a luxury marina project in Puerto Rico. Farkas' previous partner on luxury marinas in the Caribbean, Jeffrey Epstein.
Oh, this is where I was like, oh, fuck.
That's the thing about Andrew Cuomo. Once you think you found out about all of his scandals, you find out about another, and then another, and then probably another. But if my friend, the disgraced former governor of the state of New York, feels that's unfair, Habibi, release your client list.
Habibi! Oh my God, he said Habibi! For those who don't know, that's like Arabic for like my love, my baby, something to that effect. Oh my God. I saw that Andrew Cuomo responded to that with Zohran Mamdani's rent cost. And everybody in the comment was clowning on him. He was like, this is all you have after getting called out on being someone who was friends with Jeffrey Epstein? Oh my God, be for fucking real. Whoa, whoa, I don't need you that loud. Jesus Christmas. Okay, Gavin Newsom. I believe this is his like secondary account. It's like the government account instead of just like his personal account. Donald Trump, if you do not stand down, we will be forced to lead an effort to redraw the maps in California to offset the rigging of the maps in red states. But if other states call off their redistricting efforts, we will do the same. Thank you for your attention in this matter. And I said, just do it already. Y'all let Mitch the Turtle read Green Eggs and Ham to stop Americans from getting health care, but you can't stand up to them without several strongly worded tweets and letters. Nut up or shut up. And that was, I posted that 4 hours before this screenshot, right? So 3 hours ago, I made this. So 3 hours ago would be like 3 o'clock, almost 4. I would say it was about 3 o'clock, actually. So 3 o'clock, and then 3 o'clock minus 4 would be like 11 a.m. So I said that at 11 a.m. Nope. Okay. How do I get to the other picture? There we go. I'm such a boomer. 2 hours later, or 2 hours ago when I took this screenshot, so at 3 o'clock minus 2 o'clock is, I don't know, I can't, 3, 2, 1 is 1 o'clock. 1 o'clock, ABC News posted, California Governor Gavin Newsom said California will move forward with drawing new congressional maps that's said he will end Trump's presidency and allow Democrats to take control of the U.S. House of Representatives. The announcement comes amid Texas Republicans' efforts to redraw congressional maps in their party's favor. The redistricting showdown in Texas has led blue states to threaten to retaliate, with Newsom proposing to cut 5 GOP-held seats in California. The redistricting battle in Texas and potentially other states has... I can't see the word behind analytics. National implications with control of the U.S. House potentially at stake. And I'm telling you this right now, I am 100% taking credit for this. That 100%. We need to go back to bullying our politicians like it's a COD of Warfare 2009 waiting lobby. Okay? We used to throw tomatoes at politicians when we didn't like what they were saying. People used to get banned from politics for being too weird. What happened to that? What happened to people?
I drink and I know things.
What happened to people who would like
you to drink something?
Shoot their dog and be, well, I don't know. I guess if they publicly talked about it, people would be horrified. Yeah, I feel like somewhere around like the 80s, we've kind of lost self-control with like what we realistically think is a good idea. Anyway.
Is more responsible for the economy than Democrats. The Emily's List poll finds that women, many of whom make a lot of the economic decisions in their households, are feeling the brunt of this economic hardship. Quote, 45% of women said they are falling behind or only making enough money to cover day-to-day expenses, while just 34% of men say the same thing. Only 24% of women say they are optimistic that their financial situation will improve over the next year, while 34% of men say the same thing. And this is what those concerns look and sound like.
I refuse to pay $19 for a pack of 96 sharpened pencils. I was totally shocked by that sticker price.
I've had to take on a second job just because everything has gotten so expensive. I always grew up thinking about the stereotypical American dream where you own a house and you have a yard to play in, and I think that dream is dying.
That's where we start the hour with some of our favorite experts and friends. Jessica Mackler is here, the president of Emily's List. Also joining us, former senior advisor to President Biden and Vice President Harris, the former mayor of New Orleans, Mitch Landrieu, is here. Let me read a little bit more from this fantastic poll from Emily's List. You add this: understanding women's circumstances and priorities is essential for Democratic campaigns to succeed in 2026 and beyond, and their votes should not be taken for granted, especially as issues that matter to women, from the economy and cost to health and reproductive care, are central to both family well-being and who women vote for. Jessica, take me through the findings.
Absolutely. Thanks, Nicole, for having me on. As you said, this poll paints a really stark and bleak picture of where Americans are right now. They are suffering under the fallout of this Republican agenda, the chaos, the recklessness. As we talk about tariffs, we talk about the cost of goods going up. But this poll gives us a really much deeper understanding, not just that people are worried about the economy, we've known that for a while, but how their view of their own financial stress interacts with how they view the political landscape and what they're looking for. Almost half of women are saying that they're struggling financially, and that's having a huge impact. They are feeling this much more acutely. And as we know, women reliably make up the majority of the electorate in midterm elections. So responding to their struggles is going to be really critical to Democrat success.
Not for long.
In 2026. And we also see in this research that we really have an assignment that has been put upon us by voters to make sure that we're meeting them where they are in their frustrations and their struggles, and that we're offering them bold leadership in response.
Jessica, it feels like if you're the person in your household who does most of the Amazon shopping, who does most of the grocery shopping, who makes the run to Walmart, you are already seeing tariffs. If you have sons or daughters who play sports or dance or do anything extracurricular, things are already more expensive. Do you see a lag in the polls, or is that what's starting to show up, despite the fact that a lot of the analysis from Wall Street is that the pain is still to come?
People are very clearly, and this is reflected in this data, it's also reflected in what we're hearing from people across the country at town halls, at community meetings, on social media. People are very clearly already feeling the pain. But the fact is, it's not a matter of will it get worse, it's when and how. As we're doing back to school shopping, and I count myself among those moms who are figuring out how much those pencils are going to cost. We are really feeling this right here and now, but we know that it is only going to get worse. One of the other pieces of this poll that I found really interesting and is important is just how overwhelmingly voters already blame Republicans for this economy.
Yeah,
nearly 70% of voters.
That is an incredibly high number. Just to keep it in perspective, I don't remember seeing numbers like that during the 2008 financial crisis against Bush. Okay, a lot of people blamed Obama, believe it or not. He inherited the bubble and everybody got pissed off, but that's besides the point. I don't personally remember seeing voters turn this drastically in one direction, but I also want to know from you guys, I yap about a lot about how I feel about the politics in this country. What do you guys feel? What's your feelers out there? What are your cousins saying? What are your parents saying? Give me feedback.
Say that Republicans are more to blame for this economy than Democrats are. And so we know that voters are already experiencing the pain. We know that they hold Republicans accountable and responsible for that pain. But again, we need to meet them in that and offer them a path forward and really show them that we understand what they're going through.
Laura, Jessica, if I have this wrong, what I heard from one of the women there is they want to, with the opportunity maybe, or the challenge for Democrats is some of those women want to see Democrats fight harder for their economic standing.
I think that MAGA is a cult that threatens to destroy the world, very based.
Is that another thing to draw from this poll?
I think when we're in a position that we're in right now, where this just vast majority of Americans are feeling this amount of pain, that they are looking for that bold leadership. That is absolutely true. To be successful in 2026, we need to provide that to them. And that really gets at the heart of the work that we do at Emily's List. You know, and I look across the country, we have some great models for what this looks like. Right now in 2025, we are going to have 2 gubernatorial elections in New Jersey and Virginia. And in candidates there, Mikey Sherrill and Abigail Spanberger, respectively, we have some great examples of how you do this, of how you really meet voters in their pain and their frustration and offer them agendas that speak to that. That, I think, is what we need more of going forward. And what we see is that women candidates in particular are uniquely positioned to do this because their lived experiences, their professional experiences are such that voters see that they really understand what their communities are experiencing, what their families are experiencing. That's true of those gubernatorial candidates. It's true of House candidates across the country that we have running to flip that majority in 2026. They really understand what voters are going through, and that's going to be really critically important to being successful in 2026 and beyond.
Mitch, if you look at this poll, I feel like some of the arguments you made on my air ahead of the November election were warning about just this. And I understand we have to be amnesiac. We meet voters where they are. We don't wish for anything bad to happen to anybody. I don't wish anybody economic insecurity ever. I don't wish anybody, regardless of who they voted for, any stress at the grocery store or anywhere else. However, the Trump betrayal on the economy is actually more severe and more rapid than even what folks were warning about. What is your sense of both the political fallout for all Republicans, not just Trump, and the opportunity to fight for men and women and families and everyone feeling this economic stress?
Well, a couple things. First of all, the poll that Emily's List done tracks exactly the work that I did with the Working Class Project. We're still in the midst of it. We're traveling to 21 states. We're doing focus groups and polling. And we're hearing this time and
Damn it, every time I go to do something.
time again, especially from working class women who are as stressed out as they have ever been. Today in New Orleans is the first day back to school, so you can see all the moms and the dads trying to get their kids to school. And I can promise you there were some pain points at the store this weekend when people were getting their back to school supplies and they were shocked by the price. That's when you really start to feel the grocery prices have gone up. The betrayal part of this, and it is true, the election was about who they thought was going to handle the economy. Trump said, I alone can do it. I'm going to get it done. The first day I get in office, everything's going to be beautiful, and we're going to have the big, beautiful bill. But essentially what's happened is he's betrayed them. Inflation has gone up. Costs have gone up. GDP has gone down. The debt has gone up. All of the macro indicators that make people's lives harder have gotten worse for the American public. And the people, especially working class folks and people that are living on the main street, really, really feel it. And so I just think it's incumbent upon Democrats to stay focused on that issue. Donald Trump right now is trying to do everything he can in the world to distract you from the fact that the big, beautiful bill takes critical health care dollars away from women and children for food, for health care, and gives it to a bunch of rich folks. He doesn't want you to concentrate on that. He doesn't want you to concentrate on Epstein. He doesn't want you to concentrate on the fact that he said he was going to solve the war in Ukraine and he was going to solve the war in Gaza, and none of that has happened. Instead, he's showing up at the Kennedy Center saying, would you please give me an award? So I think people rightly feel betrayed, because here's the thing. Facts and reality are very, very, very stubborn things. And the people that we are supposed to represent on the ground every day feel like a covenant has been broken with them.
I agree. I don't disagree with that.
Just how significant is it for
wrong button.
Donald Trump to corrupt the gathering of data in this country? The Washington Post argues it is very significant. John Lanchester, writing on the Bureau of Labor Statistics, says this: the gathering of data exemplifies our ambition for a stable, coherent society. The United States is an Enlightenment project based on the supremacy of reason, on the idea that things can be empirically tested, that there are self-evident truths, that liberty, progress, and constitutional government walk arm in arm and together form the recipe for the ideal state. Statistics, numbers created by the state to help it understand itself and ultimately to govern itself, are not some side effect of that project, but a central part of what government is and does. Joining us now, Professor of Economics and Public Policy at the University of Michigan, Justin Wolfers.
I didn't know it was going to be a yap session. Sorry. I hate those multi... I just want to know the story. I don't want to hear other people's opinion on the story.
Our party are actively hurting people with disabilities, people of color, queer folks, immigrants, veterans, people who are hungry, people without shelter, children experiencing poverty. That's just a partial list. You will deny all of this. We know the truth. Yes. We see you, we know what you've done, we vote, and we will hold you accountable.
Hi again, everyone. It's 5 o'clock in the East. Accountability, a critical aspect of American democracy. We saw it on full display last night at another town hall held by another Republican congressman who was confronted by a raucous
This is from a day ago.
Of constituents and voters facing
This
their
is a
frustrations.
different guy. This one, somebody cursed at him.
Saying their quote.
That's what I'm saying. Bring COD waiting rooms back to politicians. That's all I'm going to say. They all got too comfy not hearing from us for a while because everybody thought they were doing good. Turns out they weren't. Now it's COD waiting room now, okay?
We see you. About 650 constituents in Chico, California, according to the news outlet Cal Matters, showed up to the town hall meeting of Republican Congressman Doug LaMalfa. He is from California's 1st congressional district and won in 2024 with 65% of the vote. But that majority approval was not at all visible anywhere last night as the crowd refused to shy away from airing feelings of anger and frustration and profound disagreement, especially when it came to the Medicaid cuts of the so-called Big Beautiful Bill.
My name is Cecilia. I'm a constituent from Chico. I've called your office every day since the Big Beautiful Bill. Haven't gotten a response, of course. You've danced around this question a few times today, so I'm going to be a little bit more specific. How do you justify voting yes on the Big Ugly Bill, knowing that 43% of your constituents, the highest of any California congressional district, receive Medicaid and other government assistance? I would also like to know how you...
Oh, damn, she came with the facts. Holy shit, she had percentages and stuff. Oh, baby girl, you are so fucked in the next election. It's not even funny. Newsom wouldn't have to redo your district. He would just have to let his voters vote. Oh, a DuckDuckGool. That's so cute. Oh my god, Sweet Pea is in for a rude awakening if he's running for re-election. Look at his face. Look at that face. Look at this. This is a man who is going, record scratch. You probably want to know how I got here. Or maybe, wait, hold on.
Oh no. Oh no.
Yeah, that's him right now in his head. He's like, oh no. I wish I had the computer loading screen, but I don't think that's the thing I have on here anymore. Like, that man is afraid, and he should be because he's about to lose his paycheck.
We plan to make up for the hospital's deficit because of the lack of payment, so the burden doesn't land on the average taxpayer.
Attendees did not like when that congressman blamed the prior administration, the Biden administration, over the issue of executive overreach. Watch that.
I am a retired Air Force veteran, disabled.
He looked down. Oh, fuck, I muted it. I'm sorry. As soon as hold on, I gotta watch his facial expressions. Holy shit. She was like, I'm a retired Air Force veteran, and he went, oh my god, no.
Administration, the Biden administration, over the issue of executive overreach. Watch that.
Watch his face.
I am a retired Air Force veteran, disabled.
Yeah, he went, oh god.
I question, or the context is very much like that woman was just talking about, in that if I, as a military person, had done an iota of what Donald Trump has done against the Constitution of the United States, I would have been court-martialed. So my question to you is, what are you doing to maintain that separation of power between the Supreme Court, Congress, and the White House?
Damn, mad respect for the vets. Always mad respect for the vets. Unless you storm the Capitol on January 6th or a pedophile or like a sex trafficker. You know, it's a very short list. It is a list though. But that doesn't mean you're not redeemable. Maybe after 34 felonies, I don't think you're redeemable. But I think people are redeemable.
That's a good and important question. We in the U.S. House and the Senate need to assert our portion of that triad. And, you know, much power is vested in the executive branch. And we've seen that grow over the years and years with the executive orders. The Biden era set, for example.
Not buying it. When it comes to the Democratic Party, it got a boost today.
There's just something so satisfying about watching someone get booed. I was talking about this in the Discord earlier, and like, politicians are just bards. They're just bards. Because back in the day, being a politician, there used to be a separate a separate career path from politician. It was called an orator. People who would speak to large crowds and talk about things. Think about like Homer, okay, from the Odyssey, the guy who did the Odyssey. While he was a playwright, he was also an orator. He would speak these things. I don't think that's 100% the definition. That is just the closest equivalent I could make right now off the top of my head. So orators would be people who would just get up and talk to people, kind of like Twitch streamers, okay? I am an orator, except they were better at speaking and more eloquent than me, all right? That being said, politicians are just bards. They're just bards who spect a little bit differently. And if I know anything about a bard, a basic bard girl, a basic bard bitch, okay? They hate to be booed. They hate to be embarrassed. They hate to be the butt of somebody's joke. Most people hate to be the butt of somebody's joke, but when it is your job to stand in front of people and make them take you seriously, because you're not trying to be a clown, right? You're not trying to be a mime. You're trying to get, you know, serious shit from these people and get them to believe what you are saying. I can speak eloquently. I just hate speaking in front of people. And that makes sense. That totally makes sense. That's 100% agreed. I struggle. The only reason I'm good at this is because I look at myself and you and the video. That's the three places I bounce. People hate being the butt of jokes. The human brain forgets pain over time. While you might remember that the accident happened and that you remember feeling in a lot of pain and all of the situations that will happen, eventually the memory of the pain that was inflicted will go away, even though you have the indications in your brain like, oh, this thing happened last time, so I shouldn't do that again. Like, let's say you touch a stove, you burn your hand, you know now not to touch the stove anymore. So that is a similar thing that also happens with public shaming or embarrassment, or for like orators, if they're made to seem discredited. That was like a big thing. People hated to be discredited and disqualified from things in society. Like Harry Houdini led a huge crusade against like people who used to do seances and stuff like that, and people who used to say they would talk to ghosts. Harry Houdini was really big into, it was the occult. It was called the occult. And spiritualism, I think. But Harry Houdini would like go around and try to show how everybody did all their, like he would go into people's seances and then he would show everything that they were doing to do the thing that they did. Like he would uncover like a tapping device or a string or blah, or a light source of some sort. So Harry Houdini used to be really cool until he died of appendicitis. But anyway, your brain forgets physical pain, but with talking to people, especially being an orator, if that is your job, if you get embarrassed in front of a crowd, your brain, while you're talking into that crowd, goes, oh, well, I don't want to be embarrassed again. And so you try to do the best that you can to not look like a fool. And you want your paycheck. Shrimp toy. I just think it's important to remember that politicians need to be talked to like we're in a Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2 2012 waiting room boogaloo.
When it comes to its 2026 Senate aspirations, former Senator Sherrod Brown of Ohio announced that he will throw his hat into the ring to take on incumbent Republican John Husted. As Axios reports, quote, Sherrod Brown, who served 3 terms in the Senate, is the party's best shot at flipping a critical seat in increasingly red Ohio. It comes as Donald Trump's approval rating is plunging and belief that the country is not headed in the right direction. Democrats do have an opportunity to seize. The question now is whether they can get the momentum and energy and sustained storytelling behind them. But as we heard in Northern California last night, all constituents want is to be heard.
Last time I was here was 8 years ago. And, you know, if you met with us more often, we might not have to yell out our
Based.
Tectonic shifts potentially in the political landscape in the United States of America ahead of the midterms is where we begin this hour with some of our most favorite experts and friends. Matt Dowd is here, MSN.
All right. There were other things I had queued up. I've been jumping around. We don't need to watch the DC takeover stuff. We're aware of what's happening. It's a distraction tactic from the Epstein files while he tries to snatch a thought, while he tries to do, you know, homeless snatch and grabs and whatever they else. Like, I don't understand the goal other than to be a fascist. Like, what's the point? Ghislaine Maxwell today was moved to, she's allowed to go in and out of the prison. She's got work release. Oh, have you guys seen what's going on with Clippy?
I was listening to the Facebook whistleblower hearings with Senator Josh Hawley a few months back. One of the elements that stuck out to me was when they were talking about how if an underage girl has deleted a selfie, Meta keeps track of this because they know that this person likely has low self-esteem at that moment that they deleted a picture of themselves, which means that they may be more apt to purchase something from an advertiser of a cosmetic product.
That's
and
gross.
I think about this within the context of what companies used to get in trouble for and what they do, or more importantly, don't get in trouble for today. I grew up in the 90s, a time when Microsoft had hell and fury fall down upon them because they bundled a web browser with their operating system. Whether you think this is a good idea or not, I personally think that a web browser being installed in every single person's computer that's standards non-compliant, that is so bad that you can literally get a virus from visiting a website, has its problems. But when you look at what it is that companies got in trouble for in the 90s, It just doesn't hit the same when you look at what companies get away with now. I remember having a Dell Dimension 233 back in the day, and if you wanted to get the one that had slightly better graphics, they would give you a free installation of Microsoft Office. And with Microsoft Office back in the day, it came with Clippy. Whether or not you liked Clippy and whether or not you liked Microsoft Office or having an operating system that had the browser built into it that could easily get you a virus when you visited other websites that were trying to invade your privacy, the one thing that you could say, unlike Facebook, who is trying to profit off of young girls that feel suicidal, Clippy simply wanted to help. He might have been annoying, but he just wanted to help. There were no ulterior motives. If you told Clippy that you were having a bad day, he wasn't going to use that information to try and figure out which advertiser to sell you to, nor was he trying to steal your personal data or get you to purchase other Microsoft products. He had no ulterior motives. He was simply there to help. Unlike many modern pieces of software, like what you get from Adobe or Intuit, where you can't buy QuickBooks anymore, you can't buy a video editor anymore, you have to pay a subscription fee for it. If I were to boot up that computer that has not been used for 28 years, and I wanted to start up Microsoft Word, I could do so without connecting to the internet. And Clippy would still be there, happy and as enthusiastic as ever, simply wanted.
That was the best part, because I used to write for Tokyo Pop when I was like, they had like a teen section where you could write and submit stories and then they would feature them. So I used to write on Tokyo Pop, not for it. But I had a whole manga series that I worked on and had an artist for it and everything. Really great times. But when I wanted to write, but I didn't have internet because like I was on vacation or my parents grounded me, so they unplugged the internet. I would, or someone was on the phone, you know, I would use Microsoft Word and it was great. Like it was so good. You just open it and it would just open. It was a program on your computer.
Wanting to help. Adobe is another example of this. This is a company that tried to twist people's arms into having AI and machine learning stuff go through their personal data. Not public data, not the speeches that I give, not my website or my blog posts or my videos, but my private data, the stuff that I'm editing. And there were people that were not able to get into their account until they agreed to this new end user license agreement. When they are looking for access to your data, they're doing so because they want to train an AI on how to do what you do without paying you, without your consent. Clippy simply wanted to help. When Clippy would ask you if you wanted help with writing your letter, Clippy wouldn't even read the contents of your letter. He just wanted to offer suggestions. Game of Thrones had, I'm not going to spoiler alert, there's this Sons of the Harpy in season 5. They were these people that wore masks and they pushed back against the new regime. And the purpose of the mask was to let the leaders know that when you see people with this mask, we are against you and your new regime, and we are going to push back against it as often as we can. And the worry with the Sons of the Harpy mask is that it starts with one person putting the mask on. And then somebody else gains the balls to put the mask on. And then 20 or 40 or 100 of them put the mask on. And once 100 or 1,000 of them put the mask on, there's nothing that the leaders can do at that point. Enough people have put it on, and enough people have come together with solidarity. And they're going to do something about it. Now, granted, this may not be the best analogy.
That's very similar to like V for Vendetta, where it's like V was changing the world, but he also sent, he also sent masks out to everyone. And they had to choose whether they were brave enough to put on the mask or not. And a lot of them did. So, yeah, because they saw one person had it and was brave enough to do it. Other people were brave enough to want to do it. I hit play.
Spoiler alert, they were trying to bring back slavery, and they also were just bad people. Khaleesi kind of became a shitbag at that point, too. But besides, I think that Clippy is like a modern day Sons of the Harpy mask. If you're tired of companies changing the terms of the sale after the sale and getting away with it, turn your profile photo to a Clippy. If you're tired of companies that have the ability to reach into your house and ransomware your products so that they stop working unless you pay them again, claiming that that's legal, but then when somebody tries to give you back access to what you bought and paid for, that's illegal, change your profile photo to a Clippy. If you're tired of sex bots invading the comment section on a regular basis, and their comments always posting with no problem, but your comments being censored even when you're not saying anything that bad, change your profile picture to a Clippy. If Google, being one of the premier data mining companies on earth, not being able to tell that little fucking cat with 2 pillows next to it that they try to make look like an ass so that thirsty young men click it as they normalize sex trafficking on the platform that doesn't allow you to express an opinion bothers you, change your profile picture to a Clippy. and let them know that you're not happy. Clippy never tried to normalize sex trafficking. He just wanted to help. If you're tired of companies saying out loud that the reason they want to keep you from fixing what you bought and paid for is that may take money away from them, change your profile photo to a Clippy. I never expected to win the legislative battle. It would be nice if I did, but it was never something that I set as I need to do this or I'm a failure. What I always hoped to do was win the cultural battle, where all of you understand what's going on and you decide that enough is enough. If I ever have a chance in my personal life to push back against this, I will. You're maybe not going to send that email that you're supposed to send to Intersil to tell them, oh, by the way, make sure this chip doesn't end up on Mouser.com. Here's an NDA, blah, 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 the supplier agreement. Maybe you just forget to send that email. When there's a new consumer rights law that the senator that you work for is on the fence about supporting, and there's a lobbyist that's going to be against it that wants to have dinner, whoops, maybe their invitation went to spam. I didn't see that. Sorry, boss. Maybe you quit before you create a fake paywall to test if your customers will pay again for what they already paid for. Or maybe when you send out that ransomware firmware update, you make it opt-in instead of opt-out. Whoopsie, if in some bizarro world it is actually illegal to make a thermostat work again, and this bastard of a CEO decides to try and get the individual in trouble, 10 cases to prosecute, only got time for 6. Maybe I just ignore this one. When a company CEO logs into their Slack and sees 10,000 Clippies looking back at them, what I hope occurs is that they intuitively understand that they no longer live in a world where they can get away with fucking over the consumer. That's
never gonna happen. I'm sorry. I understand. I see a lot of people doing it, but I will go to other comment sections before I see a Clippy. See, there's a few that didn't. The Vance thing is one thing because it's a meme. Clippy, he's trying to make it like a symbol, and that's fine. I respect him for that. But CEOs don't give a fuck what your profile picture is. The only time anybody says what your profile picture is when it's like an anime girl and they're like, I didn't realize I got on the wrong side of TikTok. Like, if your profile picture is from Pit Crew. Anyway. I don't have a problem with this video. I just don't think it's going to have the impact on the CEOs that he thinks it will. Like, Vance is more offended by people having the meme than CEOs will feel offended by Clippy pictures.
Hey guys, welcome back to today's video. Today is Wednesday, August 13th, 2025, and today we are going to be talking about the Virginia House of Delegates race. The Democratic Party in the state of Virginia is in an extraordinarily good position going into this year's November elections. A number of races across the state and state legislative boundaries, and as well as on...
I don't want to look at like pre-stuff. I only want to look at stuff. My profile pic is the most, on most things, is the little PNG avatar an old friend drew for me. The friend who drew it hates me now though. Oh, that sucks. But I'm glad you had a cool image from it. And there's nothing wrong with anime or cartoon profile pictures. I just mean CEOs don't give a shit about that. Unless it's to make fun of people.
This week, the Trump family's crypto firm announced a $1.5 billion digital coin deal, another investment in a venture that's already raked in millions for President Trump and his family.
I still support their videos and stuff. Good on you.
In many ways, the first family is
You're
making
the bigger
money.
person.
There are merch sales, a meme coin, social media platform, of course, real estate projects in the Middle East. It's a dizzying number of deals that leave a huge question. Quote, the number. How much is President Trump pocketing off the presidency? That is the title of the piece you see there in The New Yorker, where staff writer David Kirkpatrick tried to answer that question. And David joins me now. Thank you so much for being here. Did you get an answer to your question? What is the number?
I came up with the best answer I could at press time, and it was $3.4 billion. Astonishingly, it's probably gone up since then.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's break down that.
They're not factoring in the fact that Trump had his meetings in the UK at his golf course, meaning the government paid for everybody to stay there at the golf course, meaning the government paid Trump to go to a trip to Scotland. and golf.
Popping number, more than $3 billion with a B, crypto. That's where you identify most of the profits. How much have the president and his family made in crypto, and how?
Well, what's most remarkable is the number of transactions, the number of deals, the number of ways that the family has sought to make money. And I should tell you, when I set out, my method here was first, look at some stream of income and decide, one, is it coming from the presidency? Does it depend on the presidency? And two, how much have they made out of it? So in that category, Truth Social on the...
Okay, I'm sorry, guys. I don't want to listen to the news anymore. We're moving on. It's back to Jurassic Park.
Malcolm seemed oddly subdued.
I want to rewind it a little, just a little bit. Okay, let me pull up Canva. All right, last we left our intrepid adventurers. Thank God I have a map now that works. They were on their way back to the they're on their way back this way. Ellie, I think they're over here. Ellie, Donald Gennaro, and Jerry Harding, who's the vet, are... Oh, you guys can't even probably see it. These guys are hanging out with the the Stegosaurus that's sick. These guys are on their way back to the visitor center. We're going up this direction, and Lex, Tim Regis, and Lex, Ed Regis, and Tim are in one car in the front, and Grant and Malcolm are in the car in the back. Up in the north, we have Henry Wu and John Hammond hanging out in Hammond's bungalow, but I didn't have enough room. We have Dennis Nedry and John Arnold in the control room. We have Rocket Launcher Senpai with Muldoon. I think that's everybody. Yeah, okay. I think we've got everybody together, so I'm gonna start the book.
What do you say, folks? Daiquiri sound good? He pounded the metal panel of the car. See you back at camp, he said, and he started running toward the first car and climbed aboard. A red light on the dashboard blinked. With a soft electric whir, the Land Cruisers started off. Driving back in the fading light, Malcolm seemed oddly subdued. Grant said, "You must feel vindicated about your theory. As a matter of fact, I'm feeling a bit of dread. I suspect we are at a very dangerous point." "Why?" "Intuition." "Do mathematicians believe in intuition?" "Absolutely, very important intuition. Actually, I was thinking of fractals," Malcolm said. "Do you know about fractals?" Grant shook his head. "Not really, no." "Fractals are a kind of geometry associated with a man named Mandelbrot. Unlike ordinary
I don't know why I enjoy doing this map so much. This has been the best part for me. It's just trying
Christ,
to
there's a
figure
boomer around here.
I like the map.
Euclidean geometry that everybody learns in school, squares and cubes and spheres. Fractal geometry appears to describe real objects in the natural world. Mountains and clouds are fractal shapes. So fractals are probably related to reality, somehow. Well, Mandelbrot found a remarkable thing with his geometric tools. He found that things looked almost identical at different scales. At different scales? Grant said. For example, Malcolm said, a big mountain seen from far away has a certain rugged mountain shape. If you get closer and examine a small peak of the big mountain, it will have the same mountain shape. In fact, you can go all the way down the scale to a tiny speck of rock seen under a microscope. It will have the same basic fractal shape as the big mountain. I don't really see why this is worrying you, Grant said. He yawned. He smelled the sulfur fumes of the volcanic steam. They were coming now to the section of road that ran near the coastline, overlooking the beach and the ocean.
Oh, wait.
It's a way of looking at things, Malcolm said. Mandelbrot found a sameness from the smallest to the largest, and this sameness of scale also occurs for events. Events? Consider cotton prices, Malcolm said. There are good records of cotton prices going back more than 100 years. When you study fluctuations in cotton prices, you find that the graph of price fluctuations in the course of a day looks basically like the graph for a week, which looks basically like the graph for a year or for 10 years. And that's how things are. A day is like a whole life. You start out doing one thing but end up doing something else. Plan to run an errand but never get there. And at the end of your life, your whole existence has that same haphazard quality too. Your whole life has the same shape as a single day. I guess it's one way to look at things, Grant said. No, Malcolm said, it's the only way to look at things, at least the only way that is true to reality. You see, the fractal idea of sameness carries within it an aspect of recursion, a kind of doubling back on itself, which means that events are unpredictable, that they can change suddenly and without warning. Okay. But we have soothed ourselves into imagining sudden change as something that happens outside the normal order of things, an accident like a car crash, or beyond our control like a fatal illness. We do not conceive of sudden, radical, irrational change as built into the very fabric of existence, yet it is. And chaos theory teaches us, Malcolm said, that straight linearity, which we have come to take for granted in everything from physics to fiction, simply does not exist. Linearity is an artificial way of viewing the world. Real life isn't a series of interconnected events occurring one after another like beads strung on a necklace. Life is actually a series of encounters in which one event may change those that follow in a wholly unpredictable, even devastating way. Malcolm sat back in his seat, looking toward the other Land Cruiser a few yards ahead. That's a deep truth about the structure of our universe. But for some reason, we insist on behaving as if it were not true. At that moment, the cars jolted to a stop. What's happened? Grant said. Up ahead, they saw the kids in the car pointing toward the ocean. Offshore, beneath lowering clouds, Grant saw the dark outline of the supply boat, making its way back toward Punta Arenas. Why have we stopped? Malcolm said. Grant turned on the radio and heard the girl saying excitedly, Look there, Timmy! You see it? It's there! Malcolm squinted at the boat. They talking about the boat? Apparently. Ed Regis climbed out of the front car and came running back to their window. I'm sorry, he said, but the kids are all worked up. Do you have binoculars here? For what? The little girl says she sees something on the boat, some kind of animal, Regis said.
I guess that's the boat.
Grant grabbed the binoculars and rested his elbows on the window ledge of the Land Cruiser. He scanned the long shape of the supply ship. It was so dark it was almost a silhouette. As he watched, the ship's running lights came on, brilliant in the dark purple twilight. Do you see anything? Regis said. No, Grant said. They're low down, Lex said over the radio. Look low down. Grant tilted the binoculars down, scanning the hull just above the waterline. The supply ship was broad-beamed with a splash flange that ran the length of the ship, but it was quite dark now, and he could hardly make out details. No, nothing. I can see them, Lex said impatiently. Near the back. Look near the back. How can she see anything in this light? Malcolm said. Kids can see, Grant said. They've got visual acuity we forgot we ever had. He swung the binoculars toward the stern, moving them slowly, and suddenly he saw the animals. They were playing, darting among the silhouetted stern structures. He could see them only briefly, but even in the fading light...
Could you imagine? You have to, you're at your wit's end, you need to do one more supply run out to this island, and then you could go home for the weekend and be done your shift, right? And you open your, you open a door and there's a velociraptor on the other side. Oh my God, that would be awful. Just and then you're dead. Like, you didn't even know, and it wasn't your fault or anything you did. There was nothing you could do to stop it. That sucks.
He could tell that they were upright animals, about 2
That would
feet
be my
tall,
luck.
standing with stiff,
My luck would be I would roll my ankle, and then they would kill me.
balancing tails. You see them now? Lex said. I see them, he said. What are they? They're raptors, Grant said. At least 2, maybe more. Juveniles. Jesus, Ed Regis said. That boat's going to the mainland. Malcolm shrugged. Don't get excited. Just call the control room and tell them to recall the boat.
I was 5 days away.
Ed Regis reached in and grabbed the radio from the dashboard. They heard hissing static and clicks as he rapidly changed channels. There's something wrong with this one, he said. It's not working. He ran off to the first land cruiser. They saw him duck into it. Then he looked back at them. There's something wrong with both the radios, he said. I can't raise the control room. Then let's get going, Grant said. In the control room, Muldoon stood before the big windows that overlooked the park.
North.
At 7 o'clock, the quartz floodlights came on all over the island, turning the landscape into a glowing jewel stretching away to the south. This was his favorite moment of the day. He heard the crackle of static from the radios. The land cruisers have started again, Arnold said. They're on their way home. But why did they stop? Hammond said. And why can't we talk to them? I don't know, Arnold said. Maybe they turned off the radios in the cars. Probably the storm, Muldoon said. Interference from the storm. They'll be here in 20 minutes, Hammond said. You better call down and make sure the dining room is ready for them. Those kids are going to be hungry. Arnold picked up the phone and heard a steady, monotonous hiss. What's this? What's going on? Jesus, hang that up, Nedry said. You'll screw up the data stream. You've taken all the phone lines, even the internal ones? I've taken all the lines that communicate outside, Nedry said, but your internal lines should still work. Arnold punched console buttons one after another. He heard nothing but hissing on all the lines. Looks like you've got them all. Sorry about that, Nedry said. I'll clear a couple for you at the end of the next transmission, in about 15 minutes. He yawned. Looks like a long weekend for me. I guess I'll go get that Coke now. He picked up his shoulder bag and headed for the door. Don't touch my console, okay? The door closed. What a slob, Hammond said. Yeah, Arnold said, but I guess he knows what he's doing. Along the side of the road, clouds of volcanic steam misted rainbows in the bright quartz lights. Grant said into the radio, How long does it take the ship to reach the mainland? 18 hours, Ed Regis said, more or less. It's pretty reliable. He glanced at his watch. It should arrive around 11 tomorrow morning. Grant frowned. You still can't talk to the control room? Not so far. How about Harding? Can you reach him? No, I've tried. He may have his radio turned off. Malcolm was shaking his head.
Who does that?
So we're the only ones who know about the animals on the ship.
Like, who turns off their radio at a theme park with vicious dinosaurs? What the and mountains and lava and water? And it's a jungle? Like, who does that? Who just turns off their radio?
I'm
Not
trying to
OSHA
raise
compliant.
somebody, Ed Regis said. I mean, Christ, we don't want those animals on the mainland. How long until we get back to the base? From here, another 16, 17 minutes, Ed Regis said. At night, the whole road was illuminated by big floodlights. It felt to Grant as if they were driving through a bright green tunnel of leaves. Large raindrops spattered the windshield. Grant felt the Land Cruiser slow, then stop. Now what? Lex said, I don't want to stop. Why do we stop? And then suddenly, all the floodlights went out. The road was plunged into darkness. Lex said, Hey! Probably just a power outage or something, Ed Regis said. I'm sure the lights will be on in a minute. What the hell? Arnold said, staring at his monitors. What happened? Muldoon said. You lose power? Yeah, but only power on the perimeter. Everything in this building's working fine. But outside in the park, the power is gone. Lights, TV cameras, everything. His remote video monitors had gone black. What about the 2 land cruisers? Stopped somewhere around the Tyrannosaur paddock. Well, Muldoon said, call maintenance and let's get the power back on. Arnold picked up one of his phones and heard hissing. Nedry's computers talking to each other. No phones. That damn Nedry. Nedry? Where the hell is he? Dennis Nedry pushed open the door marked fertilization. With the perimeter power out, all the security card locks were disarmed. Every door in the building opened with a touch. The problems with the security system were high on Jurassic Park's bug list. Nedry wondered if anybody ever imagined that it wasn't a bug, that Nedry had programmed it that way.
It wasn't a bug, it was a feature. Nedry didn't actually steal the dinosaurs for in Biosyn. He actually just worked for Todd Howard. He was a big Oblivion fan.
He had built in a classic trapdoor. Few programmers of large computer systems could resist the temptation to leave themselves a secret entrance. Partly it was common sense. If inept users locked up the system and then called you for help, you always had a way to get in and repair the mess. And partly it was a kind of signature. Kilroy was here. And partly it was insurance for the future. Nedry was annoyed with the Jurassic Park project. Late in the schedule, InGen had demanded extensive modifications to the system, but hadn't been willing to pay for them, arguing they should be included under the original contract. Lawsuits were threatened. Letters were written to Nedry's other clients, implying that Nedry was unreliable. It was blackmail. And in the end, Nedry had been forced to eat his overages on Jurassic Park and to make the changes that Hammond wanted.
Hammond's gross.
But later, when he was approached by Louis Dodgson at Biosyn, Nedry was ready to listen, and able to say that he could indeed get past Jurassic Park security. He could get into any room, any system, anywhere in the park, because he had programmed it that way, just in case. He entered the fertilization room. The lab was deserted. As he had anticipated, all the staff was at dinner. Nedry unzipped his shoulder bag and removed the can of Gillette shaving cream. He unscrewed the base and saw the interior was divided into a series of cylindrical slots. He pulled on a pair of heavy insulated gloves and opened the walk-in freezer marked Contents Viable, Biological, Maintain -10 degrees centigrade minimum. The freezer was the size of a small closet, with shelves from floor to ceiling. Most of the shelves contained reagents and liquids in plastic sacks. To one side, he saw a smaller nitrogen cold box with a heavy ceramic door. He opened it, and a rack of small tubes slid out in a cloud of white liquid nitrogen smoke. The embryos were arranged by species: Stegosaurus, Apatosaurus, Hadrosaurus, Tyrannosaurus. Each embryo in a thin glass container, wrapped in silver foil, stoppered with polyline. Nedry quickly took 2 of each, slipping them into the shaving cream can. Then he screwed the base of the can shut and twisted the top. There was a hiss of releasing gas inside, and the can frosted in his hands. Dodgson had said there was enough coolant to last 36 hours, more than enough time to get back to San Jose. Nedry left the freezer, returned to the main lab. He dropped the can back in his bag, zipped it shut. He went back into the hallway. The theft had taken less than 2 minutes. He could imagine the consternation upstairs in the control room as they began to realize what had happened. All their security codes were scrambled and all their phone lines were jammed. Without his help, it would take hours to untangle the mess. But in just a few minutes, Nedry would be back in the control room setting things right, and no one would ever suspect what he had done. Grinning, Dennis Nedry walked down to the ground floor, nodded to the guard, and continued downstairs to the basement. Passing the neat lines of electric Land Cruisers, he went to the gasoline-powered Jeep parked against the wall. He climbed into it, noticing some odd gray tubing on the passenger seat. It looked almost like a rocket launcher, he thought, as he turned the ignition key and started the Jeep. Nedry glanced at his watch. From here into the park, and 3 minutes straight to the East Dock. 3 minutes from there back to the control room. Piece of cake.
Oh.
Damn it, Arnold
But Nedry doesn't know that the boat's already left.
said, punching buttons on the console. It's all screwed up. Muldoon was standing at the windows looking out at the park. The lights had gone out all over the island, except in the immediate area around the main buildings. He saw a few staff personnel hurrying to get out of the rain, but no one seemed to realize anything was wrong. Muldoon looked over at the visitor lodge, where the lights burned brightly. "Uh-oh," Arnold said. "We have real trouble." "What's that?" Muldoon said. He turned away from the window, and so he didn't see the Jeep drive out of the underground garage and head east along the maintenance road into the park. "That idiot Nedry turned off the security systems," Arnold said. "The whole building's opened up. None of the doors are locked anymore." "I'll notify the guards," Muldoon said. "That's the least of it," Arnold said. "When you turn off the security, you turn off all the peripheral fences as well." "The fences?" Muldoon said. "The electrical fences," Arnold said. "They're off, all over the island." "You mean—" "That's right," Arnold said. "The animals can get out now." Arnold lit a cigarette. "Probably nothing will happen, but you never know." Muldoon started toward the door. "I better drive out and bring in the people in those 2 Land Cruisers," he said, "just in case." Muldoon quickly went downstairs to the garage. He wasn't really worried about the fences going down. Most of the dinosaurs had been in their paddocks for 9 months or more, and they had brushed up against the fences more than once, with notable results. Muldoon knew how quickly animals learn to avoid shock stimuli. You could train a laboratory pigeon with just 2 or 3 stimulation events. So it was unlikely that dinosaurs would now approach the fences. Muldoon was more concerned about what the people in the cars would do. He didn't want them getting out of the Land Cruisers, because once the power came back on, the cars would start moving again whether the people were inside them or not. They might be left behind.
But they've stopped.
Of course, in the rain it was unlikely they would leave the cars, but still you never knew. He reached the garage and hurried toward the Jeep. It was lucky, he thought, that he had had the foresight to put the launcher in it. He could start right out and be out there, and it was gone. What the hell? Muldoon stared at the empty parking space, astonished. The Jeep was gone. What the hell was happening? Fourth iteration. Inevitably, underlying instabilities begin to appear. Ian Malcolm. The Main Road. Rain drummed loudly on the roof of the Land Cruiser. Tim felt the night vision goggles pressing heavily on his forehead. He reached for the knob near his ear and adjusted the intensity. There was a brief phosphorescent flare, and then, in shades of electronic green and black, he could see the Land Cruiser behind, with Dr. Grant and Dr. Malcolm inside. Neat. Dr. Grant was staring out the front windshield toward him. Tim saw him pick up the radio from the dash. There was a burst of static, and then he heard Dr. Grant's voice. "Can you see us back here?" Tim picked up the radio from Ed Regis. "I see you." "Everything all right?" "We're fine, Dr. Grant." "Stay in the car." "We will, don't worry." He clicked the radio off. Ed Regis snorted. "It's pouring down rain. Of course we'll stay in the car," he muttered. Tim turned to look at the foliage at the side of the road. Through the goggles, the foliage was a bright electronic green, and beyond he could see sections of the green grid pattern of the fence. The Land Cruisers were stopped on the downslope of a hill, which must mean they were someplace near the Tyrannosaur area. It would be amazing to see a Tyrannosaur with these night vision goggles, a real thrill. Maybe the Tyrannosaur would come to the fence and look over at them. Tim wondered if its eyes would glow in the dark when he saw them. That would be neat. But he didn't see anything, and eventually he stopped looking. Everyone in the cars fell silent. The rain thrummed on the roof of the car. Sheets of water streamed down over the sides of the windows. It was hard for Tim to see out, even with the goggles. "How long have we been sitting here?" Malcolm asked. "I don't know, 4 or 5 minutes. I wonder what the problem is. Maybe a short circuit from the rain. But it happened before the rain really started." There was another silence. In a tense voice, Lex said, "But there's no lightning, right?" She had always been afraid of lightning, and she now sat nervously squeezing her leather mitt in her hands. Dr. Grant said, "What was that? We didn't quite read that." Just my sister talking. Oh. Tim again scanned the foliage but saw nothing. Certainly nothing as big as a tyrannosaur. He began to wonder if the tyrannosaurs came out at night. Were they nocturnal animals? Tim wasn't sure if he had ever read that. He had the feeling that tyrannosaurs were all-weather, day or night animals. The time of day didn't matter to a tyrannosaur. The rain continued to pour. Hell of a rain, Ed Regis said. It's really coming down. Lex said, I'm hungry. I know that, Lex, Regis said, but we're stuck here, sweetie. The cars run on electricity and buried cables in the road. Stuck for how long? Until they fix the electricity. Listening to the sound of the rain, Tim felt himself growing sleepy. He yawned and turned to look at the palm trees on the left side of the road and was startled by a sudden thump as the ground shook. He swung back just in time to catch a glimpse of a dark shape as it swiftly crossed the road between the two cars. Jesus! What was it? It was huge. It was as big as the car. Tim, are you there? He picked up the radio. Yes, I'm here. Did you see it, Tim? No, Tim said. I missed it. What the hell was it? Malcolm said. Are you wearing the night vision goggles, Tim? Yes, I'll watch, Tim said.
I spoiled it.
Was it the tyrannosaur? Ed Regis asked. I don't think so. It was in the road. But you didn't see it, Ed Regis said. No. Tim felt bad that he had missed seeing the animal, whatever it was. There was a sudden white crack of lightning and his night goggles flared bright green. He blinked his eyes and started counting. 1,000, 2 1,000. The thunder crashed, deafeningly loud and very close. Lex began to cry. Oh, no! Take it easy, honey, Ed Regis said. It's just lightning. Tim scanned the side of the road. The rain was coming down hard now, shaking the leaves with hammering drops. It made everything move. Everything seemed alive. He scanned the leaves. He stopped. There was something beyond the leaves. Tim looked up higher. Behind the foliage, beyond the fence, he saw a thick body with a pebbled, grainy surface like the bark of a tree. But it wasn't a tree. He continued to look higher, sweeping the goggles upward. He saw the huge head of the Tyrannosaurus just standing there, looking over the fence at the two land cruisers. The lightning flashed again, and the big animal rolled its head and bellowed in the glaring light. Then darkness and silence again, and the pounding rain. Tim? Yes, Dr. Grant? You see what it is? Yes, Dr. Grant. Tim had the sense that Dr. Grant was trying to talk in a way that wouldn't upset his sister. What's going on right now? Nothing, Tim said, watching the Tyrannosaur through his night goggles. Just standing on the other side of the fence. I can't see much from here, Tim. I can see fine, Dr. Grant. It's just standing there. Okay. Lex continued to cry, snuffling. There was another pause. Tim watched the Tyrannosaur. The head was huge. The animal looked from one vehicle to another, then back again. It seemed to stare right at Tim. In the goggles, the eyes glowed bright green. Tim felt a chill, but then as he looked down the animal's body, moving down from the massive head and jaws, he saw the smaller, muscular forelimb. It waved in the air, and then it gripped the fence. Jesus Christ, Ed Regis said, staring out the window. The greatest predator the world has ever known, the most fearsome attack in human history. Somewhere in the back of his publicist's brain, Ed Regis was still writing copy, but he could feel his knees begin to shake uncontrollably, his trousers flapping like flags. Jesus, he was frightened. He didn't want to be here. Alone among all the people in the two cars, Ed Regis knew what a dinosaur attack was like. He knew what happened to people. He had seen the mangled bodies that resulted from a raptor attack. He could picture it in his mind. And this was a Rex, much, much bigger. The greatest meat-eater that ever walked the earth. Jesus! When the Tyrannosaur roared, it was terrifying, a scream from some other world. Ed Regis felt the spreading warmth in his trousers. He'd peed in his pants. He was simultaneously embarrassed and terrified. But he knew he had to do something. He couldn't just stay here. He had to do something. Something! His hands were shaking, trembling against the dash. Jesus Christ, he said again. Bad language, Lex said, wagging her finger at him. Tim heard the sound.
Oh, no.
Oh, my God. Oh, it's not loud enough.
Of a door opening, and he swung his head away from the Tyrannosaur. The night vision goggles streaked laterally, in time to see Ed Regis stepping out through the open door, ducking his head in the rain. Hey, Lex said, where are you going? Ed Regis just turned and ran in the opposite direction from the Tyrannosaur, disappearing into the woods. The door to the Land Cruiser hung open. The paneling was getting wet. He left, Lex said. Where did he go? He left us alone. Shut the door, Tim said. But she had started to scream, He left us! He left us!
Oh, my God.
Tim, what's going on? It was Dr. Grant on the radio. Tim!
Painful.
Tim leaned forward and tried to shut the door. From the back seat, he couldn't reach the handle. He looked back at the Tyrannosaur as lightning flashed again, momentarily silhouetting the huge black shape against the white flaring sky.
Like, what
Tim,
the fuck? Yeah.
what's happening?
Girly pop, why?
He left us! He left us! Tim blinked to recover his vision. When he looked again, the Tyrannosaur was standing there exactly as before, motionless and huge. Rain dripped from its jaws. The forelimb gripped the fence. And then Tim realized the Tyrannosaur was holding on to the fence. The fence wasn't electrified anymore. Lex, close the door! The radio crackled. Tim! I'm here, Dr. Grant. What's going on? Regis ran away, Tim said. He what? He ran away. What? I think he saw that the fence isn't electrified, Tim said. The fence isn't electrified, Malcolm said over the radio. Did he say the fence isn't electrified? Lex, Tim said, close the door! But Lex was screaming. He left us! He left us! In a steady, monotonous wail, and there was nothing for Tim to do but climb out of the back door into the slashing rain and shut the door for her. Thunder rumbled and the lightning flashed again. Tim looked up and saw the Tyrannosaur crashing down the cyclone fence with a giant hind limb. Timmy! He jumped back in and slammed the door, the sound lost in the thunderclap. The radio. Tim, are you there? He grabbed the radio. I'm here. He turned to Lex. Lock the doors. Get in the middle of the car and shut up. Outside, the Tyrannosaur rolled its head and took an awkward step forward. The claws of its feet had caught in the grid of the flattened fence. Lex saw the animal finally and became silent, still. She watched with wide eyes. Radio crackle. Tim. Yes, Dr. Grant? Stay in the car. Stay down. Be quiet. Don't move, and don't make noise. Okay. You should be all right. I don't think it can open the car. Okay. Just stay quiet so you don't arouse its attention any more than necessary. Okay. Tim clicked the radio off. You hear that, Lex?
You'd be all
His sister
right.
nodded silently. She never took her eyes off the dinosaur. The Tyrannosaur roared. In the glare of lightning, they saw it pull free of the fence and take a bounding step forward. Now it was standing between the two cars.
Ron Howard narrator. It won't be. Yeah, it's like, it should be.
A few moments later.
It was not.
Tim couldn't see Dr. Grant's car anymore because the huge body blocked his view. The rain ran in rivulets down the pebbled skin of the muscular hind legs. He couldn't see the animal's head, which was high above the roofline. The Tyrannosaur moved around the side of their car. It went to the very spot where Tim had gotten out of the car, where Ed Regis had gotten out of the car. The animal paused there, the big head ducked down toward the mud.
I kind of wonder if he smelled the fact that Ed Regis peed himself.
Tim looked back at Dr. Grant and Dr. Malcolm in the rear car. Their faces were tense as they stared forward through the windshield. The huge head raised back up, jaws open, and then stopped by the side windows. In the glare of lightning, they saw the beady, expressionless, reptile eye moving in the socket. It was looking in the car. His sister's breath came in ragged, frightened gasps. He reached out and squeezed her arm, hoping she would stay quiet. The dinosaur continued to stare for a long time through the side window. Perhaps the dinosaur couldn't really see them, he thought. Finally, the head lifted up out of view again. "Timmy," Lex whispered. "It's okay," Tim whispered. "I don't think it saw us." He was looking back toward Dr. Grant when a jolting impact rocked the Land Cruiser and shattered the windshield in a spider web as a Tyrannosaur's head crashed against the hood of the Land Cruiser. Tim was knocked flat on the seat. The night vision goggles slid off his forehead. He got back up quickly, blinking in the darkness, his mouth warm with blood. "Lex!" He couldn't see his sister anywhere. The Tyrannosaur stood near the front of the Land Cruiser, its chest moving as it breathed, the forelimbs making clawing movements in the air. "Lex!" Tim whispered. Then he heard her groan. She was lying somewhere on the floor, under the front seat. Then the huge head came down, entirely blocking the shattered windshield. The Tyrannosaur banged again on the front hood of the Land Cruiser. Tim grabbed the seat as the car rocked on its wheels. The Tyrannosaur banged down twice more, denting the metal. Then it moved around the side of the car. The big raised tail blocked his view out of all the side windows. At the back, the animal snorted a deep, rumbling growl that blended with the thunder. It sank its jaws into the spare tire mounted on the back of the Land Cruiser, and in a single headshake, tore it away. The rear of the car lifted into the air for a moment, then it thumped down with a muddy splash. "Tim!" Dr. Grant said. "Tim! Are you there?" Tim grabbed the radio. "We're okay," he said. There was a shrill metallic scrape as claws raked the roof of the car. Tim's heart was pounding in his chest. He couldn't see anything out of the windows on the right side except pebbled, leathery flesh. The Tyrannosaur was leaning against the car, which rocked back and forth with each breath, the springs and metal creaking loudly. Lex groaned again. Tim put down the radio and started to crawl over into the front seat. The Tyrannosaur roared, and the metal roof dented downward. Tim felt a sharp pain in his head and tumbled to the floor onto the transmission hump. He found himself lying alongside Lex, and he was shocked to see that the whole side of her head was covered in blood. She looked unconscious. There was another jolting impact, and pieces of glass fell all around him. Tim felt rain. He looked up and saw that the front windshield had broken out. There was just a jagged rim of glass, and beyond, the big head of the dinosaur, looking down at him. Tim felt a sudden chill, and then the head rushed forward toward him, the jaws open. There was the squeal of metal against teeth, and he felt the hot, stinking breath of the animal and a thick...
Should I kill Ethel or take the ability increase? Both. But if I had to pick one, it's always satisfying to kill her.
tongue stuck into the car through the windshield opening. The tongue slapped wetly around inside the car. He felt the hot lather of dinosaur saliva, and the Tyrannosaur roared, a deafening sound inside the car. The head pulled away abruptly. Tim scrambled up, avoiding the dent in the roof. There was still room to sit on the front seat by the passenger door. The Tyrannosaur stood in the rain near the front fender. It seemed confused by what had happened to it. Blood dripped freely from its jaws. The Tyrannosaur looked at Tim, cocking its head to stare with one big eye. The head moved close to the car, sideways, and peered in. Blood spattered on the dented hood of the Land Cruiser, mixing with the rain. It can't get to me, Tim thought. It's too big. Then the head pulled away, and in the glare of lightning he saw the hind leg lift up, and the world tilted crazily as the Land Cruiser slammed over on its side, the windows splatting in the mud. He saw Lex fall helplessly against the side window, and he fell down beside her, banging his head. Tim felt dizzy. Then the Tyrannosaur's jaws clamped onto the window frame, and the whole Land Cruiser was lifted up into the air and shaken. "Timmy!" Lex shrieked, so near to his ear that it hurt. She was suddenly awake, and he grabbed her as the Tyrannosaur crashed the car down again. Tim felt a stabbing pain in his side, and his sister fell on top of him. The car went up again, tilting crazily. Lex shouted, "Timmy!" And he saw the door give way beneath her, and she fell out of the car into the mud. But Tim couldn't answer, because in the next instant, everything swung crazily. He saw the trunks of the palm trees sliding downward past him, moving sideways through the air. He glimpsed the ground, very far below. The hot roar of the Tyrannosaur, the blazing eye, the tops of the palm trees. And then, with a metallic scraping shriek, the car fell from the Tyrannosaur's jaws, a sickening fall, and Tim's stomach heaved in the moment before the world became totally black and silent. In the other car, Malcolm gasped, "Jesus, what happened to the car?" Grant blinked his eyes as the lightning faded. The other car was gone. Grant couldn't believe it. He peered forward, trying to see through the rain-streaked windshield. The dinosaur's body was so large, it was probably just blocking... No. In another flash of lightning, he saw clearly the car was gone. "What happened?" Malcolm said. "I don't know." Faintly over the rain, Grant heard the sound of the little girl screaming. The dinosaur was standing in the darkness on the road up ahead, but they could see well enough to know that it was bending over now, sniffing the ground, or eating something on the ground. "Can you see?" Malcolm said, squinting. "Not much, no," Grant said. The rain pounded on the roof of the car. He listened for the little girl, but he didn't hear her anymore. The two men sat in the car listening. "Was it the girl?" Malcolm said finally. "It sounded like the girl." "It did, yes." "Was it?" "I don't know," Grant said. He felt a seeping fatigue overtake him. Blurred through the rainy windshield, the dinosaur was coming toward their car. Slow, ominous strides coming right toward them.
The sleepy fatigue was just him disassociating.
Malcolm said, "You know, at times like this one feels, well, perhaps extinct animals should be left extinct. Don't you have that feeling now?" "Yes," Grant said. He was feeling his heart pounding. Do you, have any suggestions about what we do now?" "I can't think of a thing," Grant said. Malcolm twisted the handle, kicked open the door, and ran. But even as he did, Grant could see he was too late. The Tyrannosaur too close. There was another crack of lightning, and in that instant of glaring white light, Grant watched in horror as the Tyrannosaur roared and leapt forward. Grant was not clear about exactly what happened next. Malcolm was running, his feet splashing in the mud. The Tyrannosaur bounded alongside him and ducked its massive head, and Malcolm was tossed into the air like a small doll. By then, Grant was out of the car too, feeling the cold rain slashing his face and body. The Tyrannosaur had turned its back to him, the huge tail swinging through the air. Grant was tensing to run for the woods.
Just subscribed for 30 months. Finally was able to join in after how long? Lol.
I don't know. When was the last time you were here? Also, hi, Tim. Happy 30 months anniversary. Okay, hold on. I have to adjust something with this map. Okay, I realized I made a mistake. So, Tim should actually be over here. And that'll make more sense later. But Tim should be over there with the car. Lex should still remain like here. Rexy is now like here between these two. Football practice is kicking my ass. I'm glad you're getting some time to relax, hopefully. Hopefully.
When suddenly the Tyrannosaur spun back to face him and roared. Grant froze. He was standing beside the passenger door of the Land Cruiser, drenched in rain. He was completely exposed, the Tyrannosaur no more than 8 feet away. The big animal roared again. At so close a range, the sound was terrifyingly loud. Grant felt himself shaking with cold and fright. He pressed his trembling hands against the metal of the door panel to steady them. The Tyrannosaur roared once more, but it did not attack. It cocked its head and looked with first one eye, then the other at the Land Cruiser, and it did nothing. It just stood there. What was going on? The powerful jaws opened and closed.
All right, hear me out. My theory is that the Tyrannosaur does have good eyesight, but that the Land Cruiser, the way it was painted, was bothering its eyes and it couldn't see, kind of like how they talked about the red stripe on the Jeeps discouraged the Triceratops from charging the Jeeps. what if a similar thing is happening there with the Land Cruiser? A lot of people I see in comment sections sometimes talking about how they're like, oh, the Rex was just toying with him. It actually could see.
The Tyrannosaur bellowed angrily, and then the big hind leg came up and crashed down on the roof of the car. The claws slid off with a metal screech, barely missing Grant as he stood there still unmoving.
It was the frog DNA mixed in that they couldn't see the green.
The foot splashed in the mud. The head ducked down in a slow
They must have used oxalotl DNA.
arc, and the animal inspected the car, snorting. It peered into the front windshield. Then, moving toward the rear, it banged the passenger door shut and moved right toward Grant as he stood there. Grant was dizzy with fear, his heart pounding inside his chest. With the animal so close, he could smell the rotten flesh in the mouth, the sweetish blood smell, the sickening stench of the carnivore. He tensed his body, awaiting the inevitable. The big head slid past him, toward the rear of the car. Grant blinked. What had happened? Was it?
Frogs base their movement off of other movements. No movement, they can't find their prey. Yeah, oxalotls are like that. Oh, they kind of use their sense of smell. But yeah, wait. If there's no smell, the oxalotl struggles to find it. It can't see shit. But I meant like in comment sections online, people theorize that the T-Rex actually could see and that he was just playing with Grant and like toying with him because he also didn't kill Malcolm. But like that's just a theory I've seen online.
Possible the Tyrannosaur hadn't seen him? It seemed as if it hadn't, but how could that be? Grant looked back to see the animal sniffing the rear-mounted tire. It nudged the tire with its snout, and then the head swung back.
Are you doing Lost World afterwards? Absolutely. Abso-freaking-lutely.
Again, it approached Grant. This time the animal stopped, the black flaring nostrils just inches away. Grant felt the animal's startling hot breath on his face. But the Tyrannosaur wasn't sniffing like a dog. It was just breathing. And if anything, it seemed puzzled. No. The Tyrannosaur couldn't see him. Not if he stood motionless.
Yay, yippee.
And in a detached academic corner of his mind, he found an explanation for that, a reason why. The jaws opened before him, the massive head raised up. Grant squeezed his fists together and bit his lip, trying desperately to remain motionless, to make no sound. The Tyrannosaur bellowed in the night air. But by now Grant was beginning to understand. The animal couldn't see him.
A lab idea for when that is done, I will load up Jurassic World Evolution and you can tier all of the dinosaurs from the universe. Deal. Also, I don't know if you saw, I posted to the Discord, but we did tier lists for like our favorite characters, and when the end of the book happens for this, we're gonna do a tier list for our favorite deaths.
But it suspected he was there, somewhere, and was trying with its bellowing to frighten Grant into some revealing movement. So long as he stood his ground, Grant realized he was invisible. In a final gesture of frustration, the big hind leg lifted up and kicked the Land Cruiser over, and Grant felt searing pain and the surprising sensation of his own body flying through the air. It seemed to be happening very slowly, and he had plenty of time to feel the world turn colder and watch the ground rush up to strike him in the face.
He's also...
Return. Oh, damn, Harding said. Will you look at that? They were sitting in Harding's gasoline-powered Jeep, staring forward past the flick-flick of the windshield wipers. In the yellow flare of the headlamps, a big fallen tree blocked the road. Must have been the lightning, Gennaro said. Hell of a tree. We can't get past it, Harding said. I better tell Arnold in control.
Oh, we're down here.
He picked up the radio and twisted the channel dial. Hello, John. Are you there, John? There was nothing but steady, hissing static. I don't understand, he said. The radio lines seem to be down. It must be the storm, Gennaro said. I suppose, Harding said. Try the land cruisers, Ellie said. Harding opened the other channels, but there was no answer. Nothing, he said. They're probably back to camp by now, and outside the range of our little set. In any case, I don't think we should stay here. It'll be hours before maintenance gets a crew out here to move that tree. He turned the radio off and put the Jeep into reverse. What are you going to do? Ellie said. Go back to the turnout and get onto the maintenance road. Fortunately, there's a second road system, Harding explained. We have one road for visitors and a second road for animal handlers and feed trucks and so on. We'll drive back on that maintenance road. It's a little longer and not so scenic, but you may find it interesting. If the rain lets up, we'll get a glimpse of some of the animals at night. We should be back in 30-40 minutes, Harding said, if I don't get lost. He turned the Jeep around in the night and headed south again. Lightning flashed, and every monitor in the control room went black. Arnold sat forward, his body rigid and tense. Jesus, not now, not now. That was all he needed, to have everything go out now in the storm. All the main power circuits were surge-protected, of course, but Arnold wasn't sure about the modems Nedry was using for his data transmission. Most people didn't know it was possible to blow an entire system through a modem. The lightning pulse climbed back into the computer through the telephone line, and bang, no more motherboard, no more RAM, no more file server.
Guys, I don't want to listen. I want to go to the bathroom, but I can't not. I gotta pause it. I don't want to keep it playing because I want to keep listening to it. So here's some lo-fi. Y'all, my silly self, Billy self, forgot to take my headphones off when I went inside. So as soon as I left, like, the vicinity, you guys lost your music. But I got a snack. You can't see. I don't think I put me up. I got a snack. I got some water ice. Lemon, as always. It's one of my favorites. Anyway, sorry about the music. I'm a professional. I'm decently zoomed in. Anyway, back to the show.
No more computer. The screens flickered. And then, one by one, they came back on. Arnold sighed and collapsed back in his chair. He wondered again where Nedry had gone.
You were fishing? What is the leaderboard now? Hold on. Exclamation. I can't type. No, okay, I didn't get that. All right. That's that hobby. Hobby is still in number 1. He was number 1 with 6,431.
"5 minutes ago, he'd sent guards to search the building for him. The fat bastard was probably in the bathroom reading a comic book. But the guards hadn't come back, and they hadn't called in. 5 minutes. If Nedry was in the building, they should have found him by now. "Somebody took the damn Jeep," Muldoon said as he came back in the room. "Have you talked to the Land Cruisers yet?" "Can't raise them on the radio," Arnold said. "I have to use this because the main board is down. It's weak, but it ought to work. I've tried on all 6 channels."
I have old people candy. I know you said gumdrops, and I immediately started to tear up because Sunrise on the Reaping has a lot to do with gumdrops, and it just made me sad.
"I know they have radios in the cars, but they're not answering." "That's not good," Muldoon said. "If you want to go out there, take one of the maintenance vehicles." "I would," Muldoon said, "but they're all in the East Garage, more than a mile from here. Where's Harding?" "I assume he's on his way back. Then he'll pick up the people in the Land Cruisers on his way." "I assume so. Anybody tell Hammond the kids aren't back yet?" "Hell no," Arnold said. "I don't want that son of a bitch running around here screaming at."
But what they don't know is that these guys are taking the maintenance road because there's a tree down over here. So they had to backtrack and then go this way. So Harding won't be picking the kids up.
At me. "Everything's all right for the moment. The Land Cruisers are just stuck in the rain. They can sit a while until Harding brings them back. Or until we find Nedry and make that little bastard turn the systems back on." "You can't get them back on?" Muldoon said. Arnold shook his head. "I've been trying, but Nedry's done something to the system. I can't figure out what. But if I have to go into the code itself, that'll take hours. We need Nedry. We've got to find the son of a bitch right away." Nedry.
Oh.
The sign said, "Electrified fence, 10,000 volts, do not touch." But Nedry opened it with his bare hand and unlocked the gate, swinging it wide. He went back to the Jeep, drove through the gate, and then walked back to close it behind him. Now he was inside the park itself, no more than a mile from the east dock. He stepped on the accelerator and hunched forward over the steering wheel, peering through the rain-slashed windshield as he drove the Jeep down the narrow road. He was driving fast, too fast, but he had to keep to his timetable. He was surrounded on all sides by black jungle, but soon he should be able to see the beach and the ocean off to his left. This damn storm, he thought. It might screw up everything, because if Dodgson's boat wasn't waiting for him at the east dock when Nedry got there, the whole plan would be ruined. Nedry couldn't wait very long or he would be missed back at the control room.
It has already left, my dude.
The whole idea behind the plan was that he could drive to the East Dock, drop off the embryos, and be back in a few minutes before anyone noticed. It was a good plan, a clever plan. Nedry'd worked on it carefully, refining every detail. This plan was going to make him $1.5 million, 1.5 meg. That was 10 years of income in a single tax-free shot, and it was going to change his life. Nedry'd been damned careful, even to the point of making Dodgson meet him in the San Francisco airport at the last minute with an excuse about wanting to see the money. Actually, Nedry wanted to record his conversation with Dodgson and mention him by name on the tape, just so that Dodgson wouldn't forget he owed the rest of the money. Nedry was including a copy of the tape with the embryos. In short, Nedry had thought of everything. Except this damn storm. Something dashed across the road, a white flash in his headlights. It looked like a large rat. It scurried into the underbrush, dragging a fat tail. Possum. Amazing that a possum could survive here. You'd think the dinosaurs would get an animal like that. Where was the damn dock? He was driving fast, and he'd already been gone 5 minutes. He should have reached the East Dock by now. Had he taken a wrong turn? He didn't think so. He hadn't seen any forks in the road at all. Then where was the dock? It was a shock when he came around a corner and saw that the road terminated in a gray concrete barrier 6 feet tall and streaked dark with rain. He slammed on the brakes, and the Jeep fishtailed, losing traction in an end-to-end spin, and for a horrified moment he thought he was going to smash into the barrier. He knew he was going to smash, and he spun the wheel frantically, and the Jeep slid to a stop, the headlamps just a foot from the concrete wall. He paused there, listening to the rhythmic flick of the wipers. He took a deep breath and exhaled slowly. He looked back down the road. He'd obviously taken a wrong turn somewhere. He could retrace his steps, but that would take too long. He'd better try and find out where the hell he was. He got out of the Jeep, feeling heavy raindrops spatter his head. It was a real tropical storm, raining so hard that it hurt. He glanced at his watch, pushing the button to illuminate the digital dial. 6 minutes gone. Where the hell was he? He walked around the concrete barrier, and on the other side, along with the rain, he heard the sound of gurgling water. Could it be the ocean? Nedry hurried forward, his eyes adjusting to the darkness as he went. Dense jungle on all sides, raindrops slapping on the leaves. The gurgling sound became louder, drawing him forward, and suddenly he came out of the foliage and felt his feet sink into soft earth and saw the dark currents of the river. The river! He was at the Jungle River. Damn, he thought. At the river where? The river ran for miles through the island. He looked at his watch again. 7 minutes gone. "You have a problem, Dennis," he said aloud. As if in reply, there was a soft hooting cry of an owl in the forest. Nedry hardly noticed. He was worrying about his plan. The plain fact was that time had run out. There wasn't a choice anymore. He had to abandon his original plan. All he could do was go back to the control room, restore the computer, and somehow try to contact Dodgson to set up the drop at the East Dock for the following night. Nedry would have to scramble to make that work, but he thought he could pull it off. The computer automatically logged all calls. After Nedry got through to Dodgson, he'd have to go back into the computer and erase the record of the call, but one thing was sure. He couldn't stay out in the park any longer, or his absence would be noticed. Nedry started back, heading toward the glow of the car's headlights. He was drenched and miserable. He heard the soft hooting cry once more, and this time he paused. That hadn't really sounded like an owl, and it seemed to be close by, in the jungle, somewhere off to his right. As he listened, he heard a crashing sound in the underbrush, then silence. He waited, and heard it again. It sounded distinctly like something big, moving slowly through the jungle toward him. Something big, something near. A big dinosaur. Get out of here. Nedry began to run. He made a lot of noise as he ran, but even so, he could hear the animal crashing through the foliage and hooting. It was coming closer. Stumbling over tree roots in the darkness, clawing his
Trigger
way
warnings.
past dripping branches, he saw the jeep ahead, and the lights shining around the vertical wall of the barrier made him feel better. In a moment, he'd be in the car, and then he'd get the hell out of here. He scrambled around the barrier, and then he froze. The animal was already there. But it wasn't close. The dinosaur stood 40 feet away at the edge of the illumination from the headlamps. Nedry hadn't taken the tour, so he hadn't seen the different types of dinosaurs, but this one was strange-looking. The 10-foot-tall body was yellow with black spots, and along the head ran a pair of red, V-shaped crests. The dinosaur didn't move, but again gave its soft hooting cry. Nedry waited to see if it would attack. It didn't. Perhaps the headlights from the jeep frightened it, forcing it to keep its distance like a fire. The dinosaur stared at him, and then snapped its head in a single swift motion. Nedry felt something smack wetly against his chest. He looked down and saw a dripping glob of foam on his rain-soaked shirt. He touched it curiously, not comprehending. It was spit. The dinosaur had spit on him. It was creepy, he thought.
The disrespect.
He looked back at the dinosaur and saw the head snap again, and immediately felt another wet smack against his neck, just above the shirt collar. He wiped.
Holy mother. Yeah, you got that diamond. I saw that one. That you are absolutely in the lead now. Hobby's gonna be so proud of you.
It away with his hand. Jesus, it was disgusting. But the skin of his neck was already starting to tingle and burn, and his hand was tingling too. It was almost like he had been touched with acid. Nedry opened the car door, glancing back at the dinosaur to make sure it wasn't going to attack.
I did it, Hobby. I did it. Yeah, until Dorothy beat you.
And felt a sudden
Or if Tim comes from the from behind. I mean, the month's not even halfway over. We got 31 days, baby. Actually, well, the month is 31 days long.
Excruciating pain in his eyes, stabbing like spikes into the back of his skull, and he squeezed his eyes shut and gasped with the intensity of it, then threw up his hands to cover his eyes and felt the slippery foam trickling down both sides of his nose. Spit. The dinosaur had spit in his eyes. Even as he realized it, the pain overwhelmed him, and he dropped to his knees, disoriented, wheezing. He collapsed onto his side, his cheek pressed to the wet ground, his breath coming in thin whistles through the constant, ever-screaming pain that caused flashing spots of light to appear behind his tightly shut eyelids. The earth shook beneath him, and Nedry knew the dinosaur was moving. He could hear its soft hooting cry, and despite the pain, he forced his eyes open, and still he saw nothing but flashing spots against black. Slowly the realization came to him. He was blind. The hooting was louder as Nedry scrambled to his feet and staggered back against the side panel of the car as a wave of nausea and dizziness swept over him. The dinosaur was close now. He could feel it coming close. He was dimly aware of its snorting breath, but he couldn't see. He couldn't see anything, and his terror was extreme. He stretched out his hands, waving them wildly in the air to ward off the attack he knew was coming. And then there was a new searing pain, like a fiery knife in his belly, and Nedry stumbled, reaching blindly down to touch the ragged edge of his shirt, and then a thick, slippery mass that was surprisingly warm, and with horror, he suddenly knew he was holding his own intestines in his hands. The dinosaur had torn him open, his guts had fallen out. Nedry fell to the ground and landed on something scaly and cold. It was the animal's foot. And then there was a new pain on both sides of his head. The pain grew worse, and as he was lifted to his feet...
Oh no!
Oh, I almost hit the wrong button. Sorry.
He knew the dinosaur had his head in its jaws, and the horror of that realization was followed by a final wish that it would all be ended soon. End of Side 6.
Oh, wait. Did we finish it? We did. Oh my god, guys, we finished part 1. Holy shit.
Island, where they now Side 7. Bungalow. More coffee? Hammond asked politely. No, thank you, Henry Wu said, leaning back in his chair. I couldn't eat anything more. They were sitting in the dining room of Hammond's bungalow in a secluded corner of the park not far from the labs. Wu had to admit that the bungalow Hammond had built for himself was elegant, with sparse, almost Japanese lines. And the dinner had been excellent, considering the dining room wasn't fully staffed yet. But there was something about Hammond that Wu found troubling. The old man was different in some way, subtly different. All during dinner, Wu had tried to decide what it was. In part, a tendency to ramble, to repeat himself, to retell old stories. In part, it was an emotional lability, flaring anger one moment, maudlin sentimentality the next. But all that could be understood as a natural concomitant of age. John Hammond was, after all, almost 77. But there was something else. A stubborn evasiveness, an insistence on having his way, and in the end a complete refusal to deal with the situation that now faced the park. Wu had been stunned by the evidence. He did not yet allow himself to believe the case was proved, that the dinosaurs were breeding. After Grant had asked about amphibian DNA, Wu had intended to go directly to his laboratory and check the computer records of the various DNA assemblies. Because if the dinosaurs were in fact breeding, then everything about Jurassic Park was called into question. Their genetic development methods, their genetic control methods, everything. Even the lysine dependency might be suspect. And if these animals could truly breed and could also survive in the wild... Henry Wu wanted to check the data at once, but Hammond had stubbornly insisted Wu accompany him at dinner. Now then, Henry, you must save room for ice cream, Hammond said, pushing back from the table. Maria makes the most wonderful ginger ice cream. All right. Wu looked at the beautiful, silent serving girl. His eyes followed her out of the room, and then he glanced up at the single video monitor mounted in the wall. The monitor was dark. Your monitor's out, Wu said. Is it? Hammond glanced over. Must be the storm. He reached behind him for the telephone. I'll just check with John in control. Wu could hear the static crackle on the telephone line. Hammond shrugged and set the receiver back in its cradle. Lines must be down, he said. Or maybe Nedry's still doing data transmission. He has quite a few bugs to fix this weekend. Nedry's a genius in his way, but we had to press him quite hard toward the end to make sure he got things right. Perhaps I should go to the control room and check, Wu said. No, Hammond said. There's no reason. If there were any problem, we'd hear about it. Ah. Maria came back into the room with 2 plates of ice cream. You must have just a little, Henry, Hammond said. It's made with fresh ginger from the eastern part of the island. It's an old man's vice ice cream, but still... Dutifully, Wu dipped his spoon. Outside, lightning flashed, and there was the sharp crack of thunder. That was close, Wu said. I hope the storm isn't frightening the children. I shouldn't think so, Hammond said. He tasted the ice cream. But
You don't even know that your granddaughter is scared of lightning? The fuck?
Can't help but hold some fears.
Dorothy, I believe you are now in 3rd place instead of 2nd. Blue has overcome both you and Hobby. Here, actually, I could probably pull up the board. The junk bike was worth 30 gold. That's really good. Okay. Blue is in first with 7,744. Hobby is in second with 640. I'm sorry. 6,431. Dorothy is close behind with 6,365. I'm down here at 4,020. I'm gonna stay there. That is my number, girly pops.
About this park, Henry. Inwardly, Wu felt relieved. Perhaps the old man was going to face the facts after all. What kind of fears? You know, Jurassic Park's really made for children. The children of the world love dinosaurs, and the children are going to delight just...
Oh, holy shit. Well, I guess Dorothy's in second now.
Delight in this place. Their little faces will shine with the joy of finally seeing these wonderful animals. But I am afraid I may not live to see it, Henry. I may not live to see the joy on their faces. I think there are other problems, too, Wu said, frowning. But none so pressing on my mind as this, Hammond said, that I may not live...
Oh, okay. Hobby has 6,431. Dorothy, you now have 6,365. You're very, very close.
...to see their shining, delighted faces. This is our triumph, this park. We have done what we set out to do. And you remember our original intent was to use the newly emerging technology of genetic engineering to make money. A lot of money. Wu knew Hammond was about to launch into one of his old speeches. He held up his hand. I'm familiar with this, John. If you were going to start a bioengineering company, Henry, what would you do? Would you make products to help mankind? To fight illness and disease? Dear me, no. That's a terrible idea. A very poor use of new technology. Hammond shook his head sadly. Yet you'll remember, he said, the original genetic engineering companies like Genentech and Cetus were all started to make pharmaceuticals. New drugs for mankind. Noble, noble purpose. Unfortunately, drugs face all kinds of barriers. FDA testing alone takes 5 to 8 years, if you're lucky. Even worse, there are forces at work in the marketplace. Suppose you make a miracle drug for cancer or heart disease, as Genentech did. Suppose you now want to charge $1,000 or $2,000 a dose. You might imagine that is your privilege. After all, you invented the drug. You paid to develop and test it. You should be able to charge whatever you wish. But do you really think that the government will let you do that? No, Henry, they will not. Sick people aren't going to pay $1,000 a dose for needed medication. They won't be grateful, they'll be outraged. Blue Cross isn't going to pay it. They'll scream highway robbery. So something will happen. Your patent application will be denied, your permits will be delayed. Something will force you to see reason and to sell your drug at a lower cost. From a business standpoint, that makes helping mankind a very risky business. Personally, I would never help mankind. Wu had heard the argument before, and he knew Hammond was right. Some new bioengineered pharmaceuticals had indeed suffered inexplicable delays and patent problems. Now, Hammond said, think how different it is when you're making entertainment. Nobody needs entertainment. That's not a matter of government intervention. If I charge $5,000 a day for my park, who is going to stop me? After all, nobody needs to come here. And far from being highway robbery, a costly price tag actually increases the appeal of the park. A visit becomes a status symbol, and all Americans love that. So do the Japanese. And of course, they have far more money. Hammond finished his ice cream, and Maria silently took the dish away. She's not from here, you know, he said. She's Haitian. Her mother is French. But in any case, Henry, you will recall that the original purpose behind pointing my company in this direction
What did any of that have to do with anything? Why did he point that out at all? What the fuck? You caught a Nemo? Sorry, I can only look at so many, like, you can't see it. I have one monitor. So right now, fishing is behind OBS, which is, behind, This main screen right here. Yo, you got Nemo. Throw his ass in the aquarium right now. Press the wrong button.
In the first place, was to have freedom from government intervention anywhere in the world. Speaking of the rest of the world, Hammond smiled, we have already leased a large tract in the Azores for Jurassic Park Europe, and you know we long ago obtained an island near Guam for Jurassic Park Japan. Construction on the next 2 Jurassic Parks will begin early next year. They will all be open within 4 years. At that time, direct revenues will exceed $10 billion a year, and merchandising, television, and ancillary rights should double that. I see no reason to bother with children's pets, which I'm told Lou Dodgson thinks we're planning to make. $20 billion a year, Wu said softly, shaking his head. That's...
So Hammond is aware that Lou Dodgson told people that he thinks Hammond's trying to make little pets. Well, I'm assuming it's that meeting because that's the only time we hear Dodgson talk about it. I couldn't imagine him wanting to share that idea anywhere else except for anybody personally involved with a lot of it. So I feel like there's like little rats everywhere.
Speaking conservatively, Hammond said. He smiled. There's no reason to speculate wildly. More ice cream, Henry? Did you find him? Arnold snapped when the guard walked into the control room. No, Mr. Arnold. Find him! I don't think he's in the building, Mr. Arnold. Then look in the lodge, Arnold said. Look in the maintenance building. Look in the utility shed. Look everywhere. But just find him. The thing is, the guard hesitated, Mr. Nedry's the fat man, is that right? That's right, Arnold said. He's fat. A fat slob. Well, Jimmy down in the main lobby said he saw the fat man go into the garage. Muldoon spun around. Into the garage? When? About 10, 15 minutes ago. Jesus, Muldoon said. The jeep screeched to a stop. Sorry, Harding said. In the headlamps, Ellie saw a herd of apatosaurs lumbering across the road. There were 6 animals, each the size of a house, and a baby as large as a full-grown horse. The apatosaurs moved in unhurried silence, never looking toward the jeep.
So I just want to clear something up. While the Tyrannosaur attack is going on, okay, Harding is going this way. He was probably like here, or well, he was like here when the Tyrannosaur attack was going on because a tree fell, and then they went this way. And Nedry was getting eaten by the Dilophosaurs because remember, he was counting from the time he left. And right about the time he left is when everything started to shut down. And he said he gave himself like 15 minutes or whatever. So he, in that 15 minutes that he was driving over here and crashing and getting eaten by the Dilophosaurs, the T-Rex was also happening and these guys were also backing up and driving this way.
In its glowing headlamps. At one point, the baby stopped to lap water from a puddle in the road, then moved on. A comparable herd of elephants would have been startled by the arrival of a car, would have trumpeted and circled to protect the baby. But these animals showed no fear. Don't they see us? She said. Not exactly, no, Harding said. Of course, in a literal sense, they do see us, but we don't really mean anything to them. We hardly ever take cars out at night, and so they have no experience of them. We are just a strange, smelly object in their environment, representing no threat, and therefore no interest. I've occasionally been out at night visiting a sick animal, and on my way back, these fellows block the road for an hour or more. What do you do? Harding grinned. Play a recorded Tyrannosaur roar. That gets them moving. Not that they care much about tyrannosaurs. These apatosaurs are so big they don't really have any predators. They can break a tyrannosaur's neck with a swipe of their tail, and they know it. So does the tyrannosaur. But they do see us. I mean, if we were to get out of the car, Harding shrugged. They probably wouldn't react. Dinosaurs have excellent visual acuity, but they have a basic amphibian visual system. It's attuned to movement. They don't see unmoving things well at all. The animals moved on, their skin glistening in the rain. Harding put the car in gear. I think we can continue now, he said. Wu said, I suspect you may find there are pressures on your park, just as there are pressures on Genentech's drugs. He and Hammond had moved to the living room, and they were now watching the storm lash the big glass windows. I can't see how, Hammond said. The scientists may wish to constrain you, even to stop you. Well, they can't do that, Hammond said. He shook his finger at Wu. You know why the scientists would try to do that? It's because they want to do research, of course. It's all they ever want to do is research. Not to accomplish anything, not to make any progress, just do research. Well, they have a surprise coming to them. I wasn't thinking of that, Wu said. Hammond sighed. I'm sure it would be interesting for the scientists to do research, but you arrive at the point where these animals are simply too expensive to be used for research. This is wonderful technology, Henry, but it's also frightfully expensive technology. The fact is, it can only be supported as entertainment. Hammond shrugged. That's just the way it is. But if there are attempts to close down... Face the damn facts, Henry, Hammond said irritably. This isn't America. This isn't even Costa Rica. This is my island. I own it, and nothing is going to stop me from opening Jurassic Park to all the children of the world. He chuckled. Or at least to the rich ones. And I tell you, they'll love it. In the back seat of the Jeep, Ellie Sattler stared out the window. They had been driving through rain-drenched jungle for the last 20 minutes and had seen nothing since the apatosaurs crossed the road. We're near the Jungle River now, Harding said as he drove. It's off there somewhere to our left. Abruptly, he slammed on the brakes again. The car skidded to a stop in front of a flock of small green animals. Well, you're getting quite a show tonight, he said. Those are compies. Procompsognathids, Ellie thought, wishing that Grant were here to see them. This was the animal they had seen in the facts, back in Montana. The little dark green Procompsognathids scurried to the other side of the road, then squatted on their hind legs to look at the car, chittering briefly, before hurrying onward into the night. Odd, Harding said. Wonder where they're off to. Compies don't usually move at night, you know. They climb up in a tree and wait for daylight. Then why are they out now? Ellie said. I can't imagine. You know, compies are scavengers, like buzzards. They're attracted to a dying animal, and they have tremendously sensitive smell. They can smell a dying animal for miles. Then they're going to a dying animal? Dying or already dead. Should we follow them? Ellie said. I'd be curious, Harding said. Yes, why not? Let's go see where they're going. He turned the car around and headed back toward the compies. Tim Murphy lay in the Land Cruiser, his cheek pressed against the car door handle. He drifted slowly back to consciousness. He wanted only to sleep. He shifted his position and felt the pain in his cheekbone where it lay against the metal door. His whole body ached, his arms and his legs, and most of all his head. There was a terrible pounding pain in his head. All the pain made him want to go back to sleep. He pushed himself up on one elbow, opened his eyes, and retched, vomiting all over his shirt. He tasted sour bile and wiped his mouth with the back of his hand. His head throbbed. He felt dizzy and seasick, as if the world were moving, as if he were rocking back and forth on a boat. Tim groaned and rolled onto his back, turning away from the puddle of vomit. The pain in his head made him breathe in short, shallow gasps, and he still felt sick, as if everything were moving. He opened his eyes and looked around, trying to get his bearings. He was inside the Land Cruiser, but the car must have flipped over on its side because he was lying on his back against the passenger door, looking up at the steering wheel and beyond at the branches of a tree moving in the wind. The rain had nearly stopped, but water drops still fell on him through the broken front windshield. He stared curiously at the fragments of glass. He couldn't remember how the windshield had broken. He couldn't remember anything, except that they had been parked on the road, and he had been talking to Dr. Grant when the Tyrannosaur came toward them. That was the last thing he remembered. He felt sick again and closed his eyes until the nausea passed. He was aware of a rhythmic creaking sound, like the rigging of a boat. Dizzy and sick to his stomach, he really felt as if the whole car were moving beneath him. But when he opened his eyes again, he saw it was true. The Land Cruiser was moving, lying on its side, swaying back and forth. The whole car was moving. Tentatively, Tim rose to his feet. Standing on the passenger door, he peered over the dashboard, looking out through the shattered windshield. At first, he saw only dense foliage moving in the wind, but here and there he could see gaps, and beyond the foliage, the ground was 20 feet below him. He stared uncomprehendingly. The Land Cruiser was lying on its side in the branches of a large tree, 20 feet above the ground, swaying back and forth in the wind. "Oh, shit," he said. What was he going to do? He stood on his tiptoes and peered out, trying to see better. Grabbing the steering wheel for support, the wheel spun free in his hand, and with a loud crack, the Land Cruiser shifted position, dropping a few feet in the branches of the tree. He looked down through the shattered glass of the passenger door window at the ground below. "Oh, shit, oh, shit," he kept repeating it. "Oh, shit, oh, shit." Another loud crack. The Land Cruiser jolted down another foot. He had to get out of here. He looked down at his feet. He was standing on the door handle. He crouched back down on his hands and knees to look at the handle. He couldn't see very well in the dark, but he could tell that the door was dented outward, so the handle couldn't turn. He'd never get the door open. He tried to roll the window down, but the window was stuck too. Then he thought of the back door. Maybe he could open that. He leaned over the front seat, and the Land Cruiser lurched with a shift in weight. Carefully, Tim reached back and twisted the handle on the rear door. It was stuck too. How was he going to get out? He heard a snorting sound and looked down. A dark shape passed below him. It wasn't the Tyrannosaur. This shape was tubby, and it made a kind of snuffling as it waddled along. The tail flopped back and forth, and Tim could see the long spikes. It was the Stegosaur, apparently recovered from its illness. Tim wondered where the other people were, Gennaro and Sattler and the vet. He had last seen them near the Stegosaur. How long ago was that? He looked at his watch, but the face was cracked. He couldn't see the numbers. He took the watch off and tossed it aside. The Stegosaur snuffled and moved on. Now the only sound was the wind in the trees and the creaking of the Land Cruiser as it shifted back and forth. He had to get out of here. Tim grabbed the handle, tried to force it, but it was stuck solid. It wouldn't move at all. Then he realized what was wrong. The rear door was locked. Tim pulled up the pin and twisted the handle. The rear door swung open, downward, and came to rest against the branch a few feet below. The opening was narrow, but Tim thought he could wriggle through it. Holding his breath, he crawled slowly back into the rear seat. The Land Cruiser creaked, but held its position. Gripping the doorposts on both sides, Tim slowly lowered himself down through the narrow, angled opening of the door. Soon he was lying flat on his stomach on the slanted door, his legs sticking out of the car. He kicked in the air. His feet touched something solid, a branch, and he rested his feet on it. As soon as he did, the branch bent down and the door swung wider, spilling him out of the Land Cruiser, and he fell, leaves scratching his face, his body bouncing from branch to branch, a jolt, searing pain, bright light in his head. He slammed to a stop. The wind knocked from him. Tim lay doubled over a large branch, his stomach burning pain. Tim heard another crack and looked up at the Land Cruiser, a big, dark shape 5 feet above him. Another crack. The car shifted. Tim forced himself to move, to climb down. He used to like to climb trees. He was a good tree climber, and this was a good tree to climb. The branches spaced close together, almost like a staircase. Crack! The car was definitely moving. Tim scrambled downward, slipping over the
This narrator's pacing is incredible. It's giving me anxiety.
Wet branches, feeling sticky sap on his hands, hurrying. He had not descended more than a few feet when the Land Cruiser creaked a final time and then slowly, very slowly nosed over. Tim could see the big green grille and the front headlights swinging down at him, and then the Land Cruiser fell free, gaining momentum as it rushed toward him, slamming against the branch where Tim had just been, and it stopped. His face, just inches from the dented grille, bent inward like an evil mouth, headlamps for eyes. Oil dripped on Tim's face. He was still 12 feet above the ground. He reached down, found another branch, and moved down. Above he saw the branch bending under the weight of the Land Cruiser, and then it cracked, and the Land Cruiser came rushing down toward him, and he knew he could never escape it. He could never get down fast enough, so Tim just let go. He fell the rest of the way. Tumbling, banging, feeling pain in every part of his body, hearing the Land Cruiser smashing down through the branches after him like a pursuing animal, and then Tim's shoulder hit the soft ground, and he rolled as hard as he could and pressed his body against the trunk of the tree as the Land Cruiser tumbled down with a loud
There must have been a big fire in the town I live in. Why? What's up?
metallic crash and a sudden hot burst of electrical sparks that stung his skin and sputtered and sizzled on the wet ground around him. Slowly, Tim got to his feet.
Because a fire truck went by earlier and an ambulance by. Oh, geez. I smelled smoke earlier. I actually texted Javi. I was like, I smell smoke. Is everything okay? Because the fan I have in the window, it just blows in whatever's outside. So I was a little concerned.
In the darkness, he heard the snuffling and saw the stegosaur coming back, apparently attracted by the crash of the Land Cruiser. The dinosaur moved dumbly, the low head thrust forward, and the big cartilaginous plates running in 2 rows along the hump of the back. It behaved like an overgrown tortoise, stupid like that, and slow. Tim picked up a rock and threw it. "Get away!" The rock thunked dully off the plates. The stegosaur kept coming. "Go on! Go!" He threw another rock and hit the stegosaur in the head. The animal grunted, turned slowly away, and shuffled off in the direction it had come. Tim leaned against the crumpled Land Cruiser and looked around in the darkness. He had to get back to the others, but he didn't want to get lost. He knew he was somewhere in the park, probably not far from the main road, if he could only get his bearings. He couldn't see much in the dark, but then he remembered the goggles. He climbed through the shattered front windshield into the Land Cruiser and found the night vision goggles and the radio. The radio was broken and silent, so he left it behind, but the goggles still worked. He flicked them on, saw the reassuringly familiar phosphorescent green image. Wearing the goggles, he saw the battered fence off to his left and walked toward it. The fence was 12 feet high, but the Tyrannosaur had flattened it easily. Tim hurried across it, moved through an area of dense foliage, and came out onto the main road.
Oh, okay.
Through his
All right,
goggles.
wait, I had that wrong. Okay, he was actually on this side. Okay, because that's where he got kicked into. And now he's going up this way. He's going up this way, and he's moving this way. Lex is somewhere over here. Grant is also somewhere over here, I believe.
As he saw the other Land Cruiser turned on its side, he ran toward it, took a breath, and looked inside. The car was empty. No sign of Dr. Grant and Dr. Malcolm. Where had they gone? Where had everybody gone? He felt sudden panic standing alone in the jungle road at night with that empty car, and turned quickly in circles, seeing the bright green world in the goggles swirl. Something pale by the side of the road caught his eye. It was Lex's baseball. He wiped the mud off it. "Lex!"
No!
Tim shouted as loud as he could, not caring if the animals heard him.
You should!
He listened, but there was only the wind and the plink of raindrops falling from the trees. "Lex!" He vaguely remembered that she had been in the Land Cruiser when the Tyrannosaur attacked. Had she stayed there? or had she gotten away? The events of the attack were confused in his mind. He wasn't exactly sure what had happened. Just to think of it made him uneasy. He stood in the road, gasping with panic. Lex! The night seemed to close in around him. Feeling sorry for himself, he sat in a cold, rainy puddle in the road and whimpered for a while. When he finally stopped, he still heard whimpering. It was faint, and it was coming from somewhere farther up the road. "How long has it been?" Muldoon said, coming back into the control room. He was carrying a black metal case. "Half an hour. Harding's jeep should be back here by now." Arnold stubbed out his cigarette. "I'm sure they'll arrive any minute now." "Still no sign of Nedry?" Muldoon said. "Nope, not yet." Muldoon opened the case, which contained 6 portable radios. "I'm going to distribute these to people in the building." He handed one to Arnold. "Take the charger, too. These are our emergency radios, but nobody had them plugged in, naturally. Let it charge about 20 minutes and then try and raise the cars." Henry Wu opened the door marked fertilization and entered the darkened lab. There was nobody here. Apparently, all the technicians were still at dinner. Wu went directly to the computer terminal and punched up the DNA logbooks. The logbooks had to be kept on computer. DNA was such a large molecule that each species required 10 gigabytes of optical disk space to store details of all the iterations. He was going to have to check all 15 species. That was a tremendous amount of information to search through. He still wasn't clear about why Grant thought frog DNA was important. Wu himself didn't often distinguish one kind of DNA from another. After all, most DNA in living creatures was exactly the same. DNA was an incredibly ancient substance. Human beings walking around in the streets of the modern world, bouncing their pink new babies, hardly stopped to think that the substance at the center of it all, the substance that began the dance of life, was a chemical almost as old as the Earth itself. The DNA molecule was so old that its evolution had essentially finished more than 2 billion years ago. There had been little new since that time. Just a few recent combinations of the old genes and not much of that. When you compared the DNA of man and the DNA of a lowly bacterium, you found that only about 10% of the strands were different. This innate conservatism of DNA emboldened Wu to use whatever DNA he wished. In making his dinosaurs, Wu had manipulated the DNA as a sculptor might clay or marble. He had created freely. He started the computer search program, knowing it would take 2 or 3 minutes to run. He got up and walked around the lab, checking instruments out of long-standing habit. He noted the recorder outside the freezer door, which tracked the freezer temperature. He saw there was a spike in the graph. That was odd, he thought. It meant somebody had been in the freezer.
Oh, my headphones
Recently,
are dying.
too, within the last half hour. But
All
who
right.
would go in there at night?
Okay, guys, we're gonna stop it here. Don't leave because we're gonna raid out. Thanks everybody for coming out tonight. I will be back tomorrow night. I don't know what I'm gonna be doing during the day. I know I need to edit my vlog and stuff like that because I haven't yet, and I have to like change my days and stuff like that. I don't know. Anyway, but yeah, I'll be back tomorrow, which is today Wednesday or Thursday? Today's Wednesday. So tomorrow is Thursday. Oh my god, I'm so lost. Yeah, I'll be back tomorrow on Friday. Up, down, up. Who are we reading into? What do I think my audience will like? I also don't know what cosplay I'm doing tomorrow. Today I kind of just winged it. Alright, we're gonna go to auto. I think I might do a Sailor Scout one of these days though. But yeah, feel free, get in the raid. We're gonna head into auto. It looks like he's so I will see you guys later. Have a wonderful night. Take care. Auto's great.